probably right behind me. Was he?
He
I was
threw
looking
him,
for
but he
him.
was.
I lost track of him for a minute. Hello.
Eddie!
Hey.
Oh, the French is all about the stick.
Hello. Hello. I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof. I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof.
What did Von Helton just say?
I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof. I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof.
If bigamy laws were to go poof. Right. Poof. Alright, so what we're doing now is we're going to try and get Twitter involved. Alright, there we go. So, the Twitter reveal day 2 should be commencing shortly. I'm just going to poke around a little bit and have you listen to some tunes. Because you like tunes, don't you? You do like tunes, don't you? Good. Right. I think that while we're waiting for the Twitter reveal to begin, we will just also wait with bated breath while let's see what we can do here. Well, let's see. Let's get some entertainment under our belts.
He got told, well, I have a doctorate in divinity. He told me. This one guy said that to my dad. He goes, I have a doctorate in divinity. I know how to run a church. And my dad just stood there and looked at him like, and your point is? And he was like, well, I know how to run a church. My dad said, really? He looks right over at me and says, you know, that kid right there, he's less than 30 years old. He didn't go through one Bible college in his life. And yeah, I guarantee he could run a church 10 times better than you. Do you know why? He goes, why? My dad said, because he has had experience. You haven't had experience. You've only had classroom experience versus real life experience. My experiences in my life have led me up to this point. So therefore, God has to reassure me that he is willing and able to deliver me from anything and everything that comes my way.
But he put you in this situation in the first place. I just don't understand why you accept that.
I accept it because he accepted my sins on a cross.
No, he didn't know about you. Number one, number two. There's a big consensus that he's fairly mythical. You know, just like Horus and the other sort of.
Sid, first off, you have one problem. First off, your first problem is, according to what the Bible states, don't get me wrong, I'm not a Christian per se. I'm more of a independent fundamentalist, as I always have stood. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a... Basically, in the Bible, it states that he knew me before I was even knitted in my mother's womb. He knew everything before it even came into existence. So you can't say he didn't know me.
Who's he you're referring to exactly here?
God the Father.
So you're not a Christian. You're just a believing God. That's it.
I'm a believer. I believe that Christ died on the cross for my sins and rose from the grave 3 days later for the remission of my sins.
Okay. It just seems like it's sort of the least logical thing and the least rational thing that somebody's come up with, and you're sort of buying right into it.
Well, that's kind of like saying if a guy walks up to you with 2 boxes in each hand and says, well, underneath one of these boxes are keys to a brand new Mercedes-Benz 2018, and underneath the other one, you have a rag to a donkey. Which one do you pick? You don't know which one you're picking, but the problem is whenever you have God will direct you to which one he thinks you should have long term.
God is just your imaginary. He's just in your imagination when it comes to at the end of the day.
If God's an imagination, then apparently my God has a really bad imagination, because obviously I've been through so much, and I have learned a lot more than most people.
Well, if you're God,
hold on, Sid, I'm all but done. I'm not trying to sound like I know everything, because I definitely don't know everything. But I can say I've been through a very large sum in my life, enough to figure out that there is such thing as a God, or else I wouldn't be standing where I'm standing right this moment.
But you can't really substantiate them with anything like concrete, right? Empirical.
Well, let me ask you, Sid, can you ever get into a car accident going 83 miles per hour, going from 83 to 0 in less than 30 seconds, doing 2 360s, landing on a guardrail, jumping out of the car, running over, seeing if the other guy's all right without even having a concussion? Probably. Well, how about this? When you do that, then you can come back and tell me there's no such thing as a God. Then I might actually listen to you a little more. Until then, I've had that done because I did that.
Okay, so this information that you have about the God, this God that you say exists, Where did you get it from? The Gospels specifically?
The God that I believe in.
Yeah.
Are you trying to ask me if I specifically got it from the scriptures?
From the Gospels specifically, not the scriptures, the Gospels.
No. I realized that there has to be a creator for something to be created. And I looked around and saw there was creation.
Right.
At the age of 5, I was like, wow. Whenever I build a toy house, there was a builder, which is me. And I look around and see the toys and see everything around. I'm like, wow.
There's your problem. That's the problem right there. You see, you done it at 5 years old. You did it all wrong, okay? You didn't have guidance from smart adults. So that's where your problem started. That's where it all started.
Okay,
5 years old.
You just made a wide assertion there, bud.
When I looked around, I saw trees, therefore God. Right? That was a false assumption at the age of 5 years old. And that's what led you down the garden path to believing in nonsense.
Yeah,
okay?
let's talk about the Gospels.
Bulldog, you just asserted that I didn't.
No, I didn't. No, because everybody knows that 5-year-olds they can't read, can't write, and you got
my
down the
brother
garden.
could actually read and write at the age of 5 and 4.
No, that's an assertion. No.
That's not an assertion. That's a fact.
No, it's not a fact because you can't demonstrate it. Okay?
Both of my brothers have been on Google Plus. Go look up my brother's channel. He was on G-Man
What's your
channel like 2
brother's
years
got
ago.
to do with proving God? That's just another false accusation.
No, because you made another
saying, my
assertion.
25 brothers,
You keep making assertions and you can't prove it.
That's just talking fucking out of your ass at the moment, right? You got to stop doing
anything
that.
I say that. Bulldog, anything I say you don't agree with, you're just going to say I'm talking out my
Okay, because
butt.
you're talking nonsense, right? I'm not going to agree. If you're going to say 2 + 2
You're not
equals
listening
6,
to what I'm saying.
I am not going to agree with any fucking nonsense.
I'm not going to sit here and talk to a gentleman in which anything I say that he doesn't agree with, he's going to tell me I'm talking out my butt.
Well, can we discuss the timeline?
And prove your God exists. Now, don't come on here and start spouting nonsense, right? And we've got to swallow it, okay? There's not a chance in the world I'm going to swallow your nonsense, okay?
Yeah, but we can prove it right away.
Prove that God exists, right? All right? Put up or shut up. That is my motto.
Okay, well, we
How's
can hold on a minute. Let me step in here. If you look at the graphic, it shows the relative and chronological sequence. So Jesus is born, Jesus dies. 40 years after Jesus dies, Mark comes up with a gospel. There's a gospel called Mark. 20 years later, 60 years after Jesus dies, then Matthew is written. 10 years after that, so that's 70 years after Jesus dies, Luke is written. And then 10 years later, which is 80 years after Jesus dies, John is written. So you can't rely on the Gospels for anything credible about Jesus, because you can tell 40 years after he dies is the first one that was written. There's just no way. So you can only rely on the epistles and everything but the Gospel. So when your faith in Jesus when you're talking about your faith in Jesus, I would like you to refer to the epistles specifically because those seem more contemporary. Is that okay?
Because first off, I can tell you, if you actually look in the Old Testament, you can see multiple points in which where the gospel is actually going to be mentioned.
Well, specifically where they might be mentioned, but the fact is that you can tell that Mark was written 40 years after Jesus died, which is and that's the first one. And that's the first one. Okay, so excuse me?
I'm not denying that.
Exactly. So let's agree to not use the Gospels as a credible source of information about Jesus.
However, I cannot agree with that, because that would be kind of like me taking you and telling you can't breathe, and yet I want you to live for the next 10 years.
How's that
In reality,
how's that analogy?
Without having without having Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you're pretty much just doing away with the whole entire first premises of the New Testament.
Exactly.
What are you trying
Which
to
exposes,
take out now?
which exposes
Mark,
this,
Luke,
which,
John, Acts, Romans, and
which exposes the hoax right there.
No, because
Yes.
you can go back to Genesis and you can go back to Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, Ezra, Nehemiah, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Psalms, Solomon, Isaiah, Limitations, Ezekiel. Come on, I mean.
All wrong. Yeah, we don't.
First off, Genesis, you can't prove nor disprove Genesis. So
No, we can disprove it scientifically, and you don't like it, so
that's why you have yet ever, as an atheist, you have ever yet to disprove and debunk
does not prove you're not, okay? So be a good little boy and you listen to the scientific method, okay? All right.
Well,
so
if you're,
when Genesis made fucking man out of the earth, the earth is made out of silicon, right? And humans are made out of carbon, right? So straight off the bat, the first few paragraphs in the Bible, they got it scientifically wrong. That's it. Don't talk over me. You were warned. Do not talk over me, okay? You're a rude individual with no brain. You come on here fucking sulking your fucking eyes out about how fucking life's been fucking treating you, right? Tough titties. Get a fucking job and get back to work. All right? And don't talk over people who are fucking intellectually and smarter than you, okay? So don't come in here with your fucking nonsense bullshit fucking God story, okay? You know it's fucking bullshit. Get over it.
That's not very hospitable of you there, Bulldog.
No, it's fucking
not very empathetic.
Very hospitable when I'm trying to tell him that the fucking Bible got it scientifically all wrong, and he's trying to talk over me like a fucking smart-ass, foul-mouthed fucking idiot. All right, I've had enough of fucking people like fucking smarter in this as well.
All right, well, you got it out. Now let's move on. Move along, everybody. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Other than this little problem we have with the Gospels. According to my friend Admin, without the Gospels, there is no Christianity.
That's not what I said.
You said the first premise of Christianity is invalid.
I said you're defeating the whole premise of the beginning of the New Testament.
Fair enough.
Defeating the whole premises of the religion of Christianity.
Yes, that's the point.
And can I state
that is the point of what I'm doing. Go ahead.
Hold on, Sid. Do you mind if I say one thing?
No.
Without getting a whole bunch of conjecture in with this? Sydney, I'm asking your permission since this is, after all, your hangout.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Without also trying to be cut off, first off, I don't act as though I know all the answers, Bulldog. Second off, I love it whenever people tell me I don't have a brain. Yeah, I can have a coherent conversation with an atheist and know multiple different atheists and have no problems with them. Third, I'm not saying as though I have any problems with talking to people. And no, I'm not trying to overpower you, Bulldog. You have a way of being a Sean Hannity, if anybody. You like talking and don't like people interrupting you. If you actually pay the same common courtesy, then you might get somewhere. If somebody wants to interrupt, you might as well just let them finish. It's so simple. If you just let them finish and be short-winded, you might be amazing how many friends you might collect.
I don't need friends.
And talk again.
Okay?
Well,
you don't
that's
need
all very well.
Friends,
fucking dumbass fucking diatribe with me.
That's all very well. It's all very well.
Hold on. I've been on Google Plus for far too long to be talked to.
Oh, yeah. You're the first person, okay? You're the first person. No problem. Yep.
Okay, it's all very well. It's all very well the two of you going at it, but
Sydney,
the fact
let
is,
me ask you a
the fact is
question,
that the Gospels are not
Sydney.
credible. You've admitted it that the Gospels were written.
I didn't say they weren't credible.
Yes, for
I
at
just
least
said
40
you
years.
dismissed the
At
whole entire
least,
premises of the New Testament.
At
That's
least
what I said.
40
you keep
years.
trying to.
How about
Get me to say
instead?
one
Hold
thing.
on, I'll interject for a second. Give me something more than the Bible that God exists. Don't mention the Bible. Just give me something.
Science itself proves God.
What science would that be?
The word science. What does it mean?
Yeah, that
What's the
that was a
definition?
question to
I mean,
you.
I mean, most atheists could figure that one out.
Well, I don't know what.
Well, first off, let me ask you, Sidney. I'm just curious of a random question.
Go ahead.
Can you answer this random question for me?
Sure.
How long have you
Don't know what it
Bulldogs
is.
being
Give us
on
the
Google
question,
Plus?
we'll find out.
Hold on. Ask me the question again.
Well, if Bulldog cannot interrupt you while you answer the question, it'll be amazing. How long have you seen and known Bulldog on Google Plus?
2 years, 3 years. I don't know.
That's hilarious because you've known me for about the same amount of time, if not a hair longer.
Why is that hilarious? What's the?
I don't
where's
understand. I don't understand the connection. What's the connection?
My connection being that I've been on Google Plus a long time for someone to tell me that I have no brain, quote unquote.
Because I'll tell you why. The Bible has got more holes in it than a second-hand dartboard, right? The one you bother using
And
the
that's
fucking
in your
Bible.
opinion.
No, it's not my opinion.
No, it's a
right?
fact.
It's lots of people's opinions,
You
right? All
can't
smart people.
prove it.
Yes, we can prove it, okay? All the Mark, Matthew, Luke disagree with each other, and John disagrees.
It's not
with
that
the
they
other fucking
disagree with
three.
each
They're
other,
interjecting. The person who doesn't like being interjecting is fucking interjecting me.
It's because you're being long-winded.
Yeah, really? So says the fucking long-winded person who goes on his fucking diatribe for 5 minutes and says, "No, don't interrupt me. I want to go and keep fucking talking." Right? And John disagrees with Luke, Matthew, and Mark entirely. And Mark doesn't even.
Can I say something now?
And here's the funny thing: how come Mark doesn't have? He's missing out all a birth narrative and a fucking death narrative, and then Matthew picks up on that fucking part of the story and adds his spiel to it. Luke picks up on Matthew, adds his spiel to it. John looks at those three and says, "Oh, I'm going to make my own fucking version." Yeah.
Let me know when I can actually comment.
It's fuck all yous cunts, I'm going to make my own. And yet none of them, the whole four of these fucking numbnuts weren't even around at the time that fucking Jesus was alive. So how could they possibly fucking know?
That's exactly.
Not
Not only were they not around, their parents were little.
Can I answer and ask a couple questions?
Let him answer.
Oh.
Okay, first off, your whole entire last paragraph that they had no idea because they weren't around, you can tell, first off, you may or may not have ever read the New Testament. Because, first off, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are all from different sceneries, meaning different perspectives of the exact same thing. And how you can get that is because if you actually look at the 12 disciples, what are their names? Do you remember, Bulldog? Before you go shooting your mouth off, I'll answer your question for you. Hold on. I tried to remain calm for you. I tried remaining calm for you.
Let him get his point out, Bulldog.
Now, I tried remaining calm for you. I might have tried
Just
to
carry on.
interrupt
Just
twice,
move on,
saying,
move
let
on.
me know.
Yeah, go
But
Just get to the point.
The disciples were Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Then you had Nicodemus. You had Cyrus. You got multiple different people. So therefore, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were around when this whole thing took place of Jesus born. Because John was actually at the cross when Jesus died, because Jesus actually left John in charge of watching over Mary, his mother. So you can't say that they weren't all around. That just shot your whole entire perspective out the wazoo. Please say it otherwise.
That is absolutely crazy thinking. Absolutely nutty.
He's a
How about
That's
you?
nutty. That's
How
nutty.
about
That's
you?
batshit
How about
fucking
you
crazy.
read? How about you read John?
John was written 40 years after the death of the mythical Jesus, and even then, you know it's fiction. You know it's fiction coming up.
Well, how about you go read John, and then you can
We
tell
just
me
told
whether
you
or
we
not.
read it. He made up his own bullshit fucking story 40 years after Jesus died.
You don't think he
How
would have
the
written
fuck
it down
do you
when it
know
happened?
Jesus did if he wasn't even born when Jesus was alive?
Are you talking? Hold on. Are you talking about? Hold on, please.
No, I don't know. I never
Yes.
told you to fucking hold on. You hold on. You haven't listened to my diatribe, right? John wasn't even born. So how the fuck could he even tell a fucking story about someone who he never even met? And matter of fact, no one in the Gospels, none of them, we don't even know their real names, number one. And point number two, none of them were around at the time when they were writing this fucking story. So where are you getting, how are these people knowing all so much information? You can't even remember what you did last week, let alone 30 years fucking after the event. You fucking crazy or what?
That's an assertion. I can't remember what happened last week because I can remember exactly what happened last week.
It's a fact.
And
yeah.
second off, actually, no, it's not. I remember exactly what I was doing. I was turning in applications to get a job. Now, anyway, second off, if you...
On that application, can you repeat word for word what it said?
Yes, it actually asked the question if I was a felon. It actually asked the question of my zip code, my city, my state. It asked my job, recent employment. It asked for references. Typical things on an application, and I can actually name off places if you want me to. Now, anyway, if I can actually continue on my thought that you just so have to try to
Your
persuade out of
voice
mine.
is fucking irritating me, man.
Anyway, so basically, you have one little bit of a problem because when Jesus was born, can I finish?
Yeah.
Why are you always so calm?
Why am I
Show
always so
some
calm?
fucking passion.
Because Jesus is a myth.
No, I choose to be kind because
You're
I was
trying to
never
act all
being
calm to
kind
make.
to.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I'll believe my story about fucking
You're
nonsense.
so kind you can't get a fucking job. So carry on and get to the fucking point.
Well, first off, I would if people stopped interrupting. That's what happens whenever
Well, fucking hurry
a
up,
theist
then.
happens to enter a room that has a couple atheists in it. No offense, Sid.
And don't forget the moron who's talking.
Well, at least he believes in something.
Yeah.
Oh, so we have to believe in something.
Oh, can I go on a fucking diatribe and tell you the fucking the mythical god?
You already did.
Thor, and then I'll tell you all the story and I'll drag it out and make it so long. And
Okay, now can I get back to my thought now?
Take your time to hurry up about it.
Yeah, well, that's a paradox. But anyway, basically, if you remember correctly, it states in the Bible to where John was actually baptized by, Jesus was baptized by John. Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that funny how they weren't even alive? How did that happen? I wonder how
Oh, wait, that's right. That's why they called him John the Baptist, in which he said, the one that comes after me, I'm now worthy to unlatch his shoes. Interesting.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So you might as well talk about fucking Mary. You might as well talk about something else which doesn't even go all we're talking about with the fucking Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John story. You've gone on to fucking John the Baptist. Stick to the fucking point.
You know, John the Baptist was actually in the Gospels,
I
right?
don't want to hear about fucking John the fucking Baptist. How come he got his fucking head lopped off? Fucking that's the last time he fucking want to baptize anybody.
The reason why he got his head chopped off is because he was standing up for
You don't want to
Christ.
be fucking going around.
Okay, I think I found something. Let's see if this is gonna work.
You know, should you want to ask me some questions about Twitter instead of talking about yourself? And
the vibe I got there was like, this is my bullshit meter, like, was redlining. So I'm like, but everyone kept saying, you know, Morgan Stanley and lots of other people kept saying, oh, SPF is the best, and he's got tons of money, and so that's why I agreed to speak to him. But then like I said, he set up my bullshit meter, but which frankly I don't think this was like deep insight wasn't necessary. If someone's calling you to talk about investing in a big transaction, they should be asking questions about the transaction, not talking about themselves and talking at the speed of an auctioneer. So that's, you know, it doesn't require deep insight to figure out that the bullshit factor is high.
So you didn't end up with any client funds accidentally?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, Mario is having connection issues, so you're unable to hear him. And Mario, I was going to say my DMs are open if you want to relay comments or questions for Elon there, and I can try to help field those. And also, Alex is one of the accounts that was wrongfully suspended by Twitter, and you fortunately brought back. I wanted to give him the opportunity to ask you a question because he's had his hand up, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Hey, so I was Hunter Lab House. We also cover other requests by the Biden campaign and the DNC to censor individuals.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Alex. We can't hear you.
I can barely hear Alex. Like, tell Elon to mute his mic and unmute.
Alex, probably, but I cannot hear him.
Yeah, tell Elon to mute and unmute just so we can hear Alex, because I think Elon's background noise is muting Alex.
Hey, Elon,
someone tell Elon. Elon can't hear me, so you have to tell him Kimotera.
Yeah, I'm telling him that he can't hear you. That's okay.
Can you
just give me 1 second here, real quick? Elon, you said something, you know, really important, and that is that truth matters. And you know, this is really what this is all about, because without free speech, we don't have truth. And I would like to ask you, what is your opinion about Julian Assange and Edward Snowden? Shouldn't those guys be center stage when it comes to free speech and truth? You know, shouldn't the U.S. government leave Julian Assange alone and let him be a journalist?
You know, I don't know enough about the Assange situation to give an accurate answer. I mean, there are things where, you know, that where national security stuff is involved, that you know, I think do need to be kept secret, because you know, where there's like nuclear secrets, and there are, you know, there are things where bad actors, if they had access to that information, could do bad things. So
yeah, but when a journalist exposes war crimes, right? When a government just goes and invades a country and kills people, you know, against international law, like when exposures like this are being made, isn't that important so people see the reality of wars and understand how some of that stuff is really bad?
Yeah, I mean, I generally think that people should, like I said, that people should be able to know what's going on in order to make sensible decisions. You know, there's, and I just don't know enough about the Assange situation to say whether, you know, he should be punished or not punished. But I do think that I'm generally in favor of freedom of information, and like if there's any doubt, we should lean on the side of freedom of information. So, you know,
and how about Edward Snowden, who has revealed these mass surveillance programs where the government is spying on everyone and storing all their data in these massive spy clouds, also against the law, you know, where the Five Eyes are working together to undermine their local laws and their local restrictions on spying, and they just spy on each other and then share the data so that they know everything about everyone. How do you feel about that?
Well, probably the best thing would be a jury of the public you know, if Snowden were to be, I don't know. Look, I'm power in this situation, but if they like, ultimately the people of the United States should be the ones who judge Snowden, not you know, select people in the government. So if a jury of peers of citizens were to review Snowden and make a judgment as to whether he's guilty or not, I think that would probably be the appropriate course of action.
Yeah, the only problem is that if he were to be in a U.S. court, he wouldn't get a fair trial because under Espionage Act laws, you cannot even make a public interest defense. He wouldn't even be able to say, I've done that because it's the right thing for Americans to know about that. So that would be a defense that is not available to him. So to say, you know, a jury of your peers should decide about that, it's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no easy answer to the Snowden Assange situation.
Can I make a suggestion, Elon? Why don't you do a poll to your millions of users and ask them if they think Julian Assange and Edward Snowden should be given their piece for the service that they have provided to humanity?
Okay, that's a good idea. Sure.
I like that idea.
I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a question on Mario's behalf really quick, since he's unable to speak to Elon, which has to be extremely frustrating as the host. He was just curious if you faced any pressure so far since releasing the Twitter files.
I mean, I face pressure all the time, so it's kind of, it would say like, what's the differential in pressure before and after? Because I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. Maybe there's pressure, but I might just not be feeling it because this every day is a high pressure situation. But I don't know. Well, like I said, we're just gonna put all the information out there, try to get a clean slate, and then work iteratively in the future to provide the most truthful, accurate, and timely information to the people. That will be the goal of Twitter. And we won't be perfect in that regard, but I think we will be iteratively better. And if that turns out, if we're successful in doing so, then I think Twitter will compete more effectively than any other source of information. And then more people will use Twitter. And then that competitive pressure will force other social media companies and other media companies to also be more truthful, because otherwise they will simply lose their readership. And that, I think, is an extremely powerful and good vision of the future.
Could you say a little bit perhaps about what Twitter is expected to maintain as an API to, say, the Department of Homeland Security in general, the FBI, maybe CISA in particular? Is there an expected way in which the government can jack in to social media that's expected on behalf of each of the big media platforms? And is that sort of different? I don't know how to say this exactly, but the issue of left versus right is complicated by the fact that Trump is a non-player to the game, just the way Bernie might have been considered a non-player to the game. And so the secondary question is, how much of this isn't about left versus right, but about targeting anyone who isn't a party to all of the tacit agreements inside DC?
Can you still hear us, Elon?
Uh-oh, lost contact with Elon.
Elon, you still there?
I hope so.
No, he's disconnected. It says disconnected for me at least. I'll invite him again. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, he's back. He's back.
Hey,
Elon,
Mario, such a pity that he couldn't hear you, man. That is just crazy.
No, it's fine, man. It's fine. Like, you know me. I'm happy listening. I'm happy listening. Can you guys hear me at least?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Dara, thanks for asking the question. I was really curious about it. But it says for me he's still a speaker. Can anyone see him as a speaker?
I can see him as a speaker, but he's not speaking.
Last time he was here, Kim, you were there as well. I think Kim, you commented and he joined. When we co-hosted him, remember Kim? We co-hosted him and it froze. So I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't have co-hosted him.
I think he's dropped off now.
Yeah, I'll send him an invite. A few people got kicked off stage, not even by you, Kim, just by themselves. So just guys, give you a heads up. Twitter's glitching like crazy. What's your take while waiting for Elon, guys? What's your take so far on what Elon has said? Because there's a few pretty big things he mentioned, such as the fear, the worry that he has.
Just to summarize what he said, right? I mean, his main goal clearly is that the truth is out there, that it has value again, and that Twitter needs to make a stand for free speech, which he is doing now. And he is aware of the risks to him personally and his businesses. So it's a very courageous thing for him to do. And I think, anyone who had any doubt about what his intentions are when he bought Twitter, I think it's pretty clear that what he's doing is in the interest of the people and not necessarily in his own best interest. So I find that amazing, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah, and while waiting for Elon to join again, I've DM'd him another invite. What do you guys think of his? I'm not sure if he's saying it as a joke, but his security fear on his security and
I
being shot.
don't think he has anything really to worry about. I mean, I don't think anyone's really going to come at him right now because it'd be too obvious why they'll be going after him. So I think he's quite safe, and he does have security. So personally, I'm not concerned. Although at the same time, he does have security for a reason, right? He is the world's richest man. So there's that. But I'm not really, I don't think it's going to be different than any other day. There's nothing that he's revealing now that is, that damaging to, any specific person, right? It's like he's more or less just giving people the platform for free speech. And the people who are most affected by this are journalists who, what do they have to lose? Well, their reputations for one, but they've already thrown it away. So I don't think it's, I don't think he really has to worry about his personal safety. I don't think it's going to be that dire.
Elon, just to let you know, Elon is listening now. I've sent you through an invite. You should see it via DM. So I've sent you through the invite to come back on stage. So hopefully it works. It might take a bit of time because space is glitching like crazy.
It is.
For everyone else, yeah, go ahead.
Mario, there's some backfeed coming from you. I'm not sure if you have your audio playing in the background, but I can hear you twice. I don't know if anyone else is having that issue.
Oh, I can hear him twice.
Oh, shit. Okay, I'll try to fix it. By the way, everyone, I'm just going to tweet the next space link now to set your reminders for the next space. I'll fix my audio. Kim, the mic is yours.
Yeah, let's hope that Elon comes back if he has a chance. I mean, first of all, how amazing is that he joins us from his private chat, to be part of this space. That's just typical Elon. It's so cool.
I mean, it's a historical moment, right? I mean, he's a part of it. I mean, he's the part of it. So, I mean, thank you.
He's back, guys. Just FYI, he's back. Elon, let me see if he can hear me this time. Elon, can you hear me or still no?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm glad you can hear me. I'm glad you can hear me again. I think Kim, you were asking a question.
No, I was just saying how cool it is that you talk to us from your private chat. We really appreciate it. It's like a typical Elon moment, and we're just all in awe about you, taking these risks to your business and to yourself to fight for free speech. So I said to everyone who had doubts about your intentions when you bought Twitter, you are making your intentions very clear, and I think it's very courageous of you, and I want to thank you for that.
No, you're most welcome. I mean, like I said, the proof will be in the pudding over time. There will be many mistakes made, but iteratively, I think that the net vector should be towards truth, if sort of new Twitter is successful in that, then the results will be that people will turn to Twitter to understand what is true, what is real, what narratives matter, and Twitter will gain a lot of readership and attention, and will put a lot of competitive pressure on mainstream media and on other social media companies to also be more truthful, because otherwise they will simply keep losing people to Twitter, and that's where the competition can be a very, very good thing. So, but it's not going to be perfect, and there's going to be decisions that people disagree with. But on balance, the overall decisions are ones that people do agree with, then they will gravitate towards Twitter, and Twitter will actually be successful and will gain share from other sources of media, and it will cause those other sources of media to then stop towing the line and to sort of be more truthful.
What's your, just a quick question, Elon, what's the biggest risk in your opinion from the steps you've taken in terms of releasing the files? Do you see any risks for Twitter?
I mean, I guess there'll probably be some, I wouldn't be surprised if some lawsuits or something, so yeah, I would expect there to be some legal risk. But what's important, that's less of a concern than just clearing the air and making sure that people of Earth and know what really happened. And
the metrics, the Twitter metrics show that it seems like it's the right decision by far, not only ethically but from a business perspective as well. That you keep hitting new records.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, it's the point of as it becomes clear and that Twitter is the place to actually figure out what's going on and get the unfiltered narrative, the unfiltered truth. Also for the people of Twitter to be able to suggest narratives and steer that, and emphasize narratives themselves. And have things not be controlled like it is with the so-called mainstream media, where the narrative is controlled by a handful of editors-in-chiefs. If basically the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and Washington Post, and maybe a few others decide what the narrative is, and so even if what they say is completely truthful, the people don't really get a choice in what topics are covered. So, whereas on Twitter they do. Like there could be something really important going on in the world, and then the big news organizations aren't covering it for whatever reason. But on Twitter, the people can decide what narratives are important and what should be emphasized and what should, yeah. So that's.
So on that note, like,
can I mention something really quick? Can I just mention something really quick that I can hear you.
Okay,
is that you?
I'm just going to ask a quick question. I want to know what Twitter is doing, or what you are doing, what you're planning to allow people to have more ability to publish their own stories on Twitter. Because right now we just have tweets, right? Yeah. But like, what are your plans for, say, video publication or article publication, things to incentivize creators and journalists, independent journalists, to be able to have their voices heard for more than just tweets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are all like very obvious moves. One needs to be able to obviously post long-form written content on Twitter. One needs to be able to post long videos and long audio on Twitter natively, and there obviously needs to be a means of monetizing that so that creators can make a living. Those are. I feel like I'm saying that the sky is blue and the grass is green. That's pretty obvious stuff. But in order to implement those things, Twitter needs to have a strong software engineering organization that is focused on shipping great code. Really was quite a mess before, but it will have a strong engineering team and be able to implement those basic features. So, that even if there are lots of limitations, let's say on example, then they can post it on Twitter, and then Twitter can be an effective competitor to YouTube. And then, like I said, what happens when there is competition for the truth, and everyone and one company steps out of line, then and actually really does allow the truth to flourish. It's going to put a lot of competitive pressure on other organizations to do the same thing.
Can you talk about whether or not the effort to supposedly pre-bunk malinformation, which is to take real information and then, if it's imaging to a narrative, to put fear, uncertainty, and doubt around it, is there an attempt through the Department of Homeland Security or the FBI or CISA or any of these groups to tell Twitter that it has to maintain a port so that information can come from the government to say, we need this information pre-bunked?
Well, I mean, if there is any sort of request from the U.S. government that is not in accordance with the law or can be legally fought, then Twitter will refuse it's legal, and if something can't be will legally and if something cannot be will be Congress was such that it can be legally fought. But we cannot gag the voice of the people. This is not good. And like I said earlier, it's like you look at I read a lot of history. I love history, and I love history podcasts and stuff. And
Hardcore history is the best one.
Hardcore history. Dan Collin is so awesome.
It's fantastic. Start with the Mongols.
Yeah, but it's like you look through history, man, and it's like we have this pressure. We're in this precious situation where, like, this rare, unusual situation where there's actually, I mean, within boundaries, there is actually freedom of speech, but it's rare in history, and usually it's like been some king or whatever that's just they were just by default suppress people, and now we have this like rare moment in history where the voice of the people is mostly not suppressed, but now there are people trying to suppress it, and we just need to fight really hard for freedom of speech. This is very, I think, essential to the future of civilization.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, this is why you're fighting, right? This is why, you're fighting for free speech so that we can have it in the future. Because if we don't have control of the present, we do not have control of the future. It will be in the control of somebody else, someone that we absolutely do not want to be in control of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to chime in there, there are a lot of people in the last decade that have lost hope because what's happening in politics, what's happening in the media, there's so much frustration. And I think the most important thing that you've done here, Elon, with your steps that you are taking is to give people hope again.
Well, great. I'm really glad to hear that. And like I said, I'll do my best here. I'm definitely going to make some mistakes along the way and won't be perfect, but I'll also then do my best to correct those mistakes and to be, the least dumb possible. Like as I say, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, man. It's just like, yeah, I mean.
It's a very white-pilling moment to have you fight this fight. A lot of us have been fighting this culture war for free speech, basically, and I think a lot of people have lost hope because they didn't see anyone caring about it, right? It's like the majority of people obviously do care, but they just don't know what to do. And yeah, it's true what Kim said, just to echo what he said. Thank you for fighting this fight. I mean, this is very, very important. It's not just you, it's not just me, it's all of us.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like sort of, worried about the future of civilization. Just like, are we headed in a good direction? Like, and if you study history, you sort of see like the arc of civilizations, the rise and fall. There's the ancient Sumerians, the ancient Egyptians. in India and China, there've been many sort of rises and falls of civilizations within India and China, and it's just like people sometimes take for granted that because they've been in an upcycle, that things just get better in the future, and they don't just automatically get better. They actually civilizations tend to have an arc, and we want to make sure that we do not find ourselves on the downslope of that arc.
You know, good times make weak men, right? And we are in the good times right now, and we're seeing a lot of weak men, right? Like that's where we are in this arc, and it sucks. So let's try not to repeat the same cycle. We need to fight the cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, you know, it's like, I mean, not to sort of get like too philosophical about things here, but there is like sort of a, you know, I've had these discussions with like a lot of people, and feel like I'm wondering, like, you know, sort of what's the meaning of life? Like, what should we do? Like, why do anything? You know, and you know, for some people that answer is religious, but then if you're not sort of very religious, then what is the answer? And actually, my theory on that is that I sort of believe in Douglas Adams' philosophy that, you know, the universe is the answer, and we should strive through greater understanding to expand the scope and scale of consciousness to better understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe. You know, it's basically a religion of curiosity. Like let's you know, grow into the future, expand in the future, expand consciousness, expand our understanding, and to just figure out what the heck's going on.
And it's the number 42, right? The number 42 as well. And also, you know, don't panic and make sure you grab a towel.
Elon, thanks for
without giving away too much. Really quick, Elon, is there any way to get a sneak peek of what we can expect with the next Twitter files drop?
Well, I'm somewhat leaving this up to Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss, but I think the natural thing would be to say, like, okay, what happened after the election, you know, the Hunter Biden laptop stuff. And by the way, I actually don't. I this may sound bizarre, but like Hunter Biden seems kind of fun, to be honest.
I know, right? Yeah. He's an artist. Do you know that?
He seems like he knows how to have a good time.
I mean,
so
he has a sense of humor about himself.
Hunter Biden here, but but just beyond the you know, what happened after the election? What you know, how much government influence was there? You know, there's this whole sort of move to create a disinformation ministry, which was insane. And like George Orwell is turning in his grave. Did you hear such things? But like, what happened with, you know, with that? You know, I think there was a public outcry about a disinformation.
Yeah, Jack Posobiec started that one. He basically stopped it in its tracks because before that, nobody knew that this was even a thing, right? And he exposed it, and suddenly everybody was talking about it, and they had to shut it down because it was very Orwellian. It was like they used 1984 as an instruction manual.
Exactly, totally. It's exactly 1984 is George Orwell's 1984 is supposed to be a warning, not an instruction manual.
Yep.
God, come on.
And that's what they seem to be doing. They take every single, you know, dystopian fiction, whether it's Deus Ex, I love that game, and they're like, yeah, this world looks awesome. Let's oppress the hell out of people. It's like, no, let's not do that.
Exactly, totally.
Hey, Elon, speaking of progress, you've accomplished so much. You started the first successful American car company in 100 years. You brought payments to the internet. there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners that look at what you do and sort of try to, follow that example and see how can they create some of that progress too. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the layoffs because it appeared to me with the $4 million loss per day and just doing the math on the $1 billion of interest expense that $3 million of that may have been interest expense added. And I myself, running a small business, have been in a situation where, the business was going to go under in a number of months if expenses weren't cut, and what we found is communicating to employees, giving them time to process, getting their feedback, and then, creating a shared vision to evolve the product, to evolve the company to a greater future was really successful. And it appears here that the typical leverage buyout KKR approach was basically applied from a financial standpoint. For a small business owner, is that approach wrong? Did you think about taking that approach? Was that ever under consideration?
I apologize. The audio is not perfect, so I'm not fully hearing the questions. But with respect to Twitter, the company basically tripled headcount in about 2 years, a little over 2 years, but revenue is flat to declining. So that there's just no way that is going to be a healthy situation. So the first order of business with Twitter was okay, we got to make sure Twitter doesn't die, that doesn't go bankrupt. And there is quite a lot of debt on this deal, $12.5 billion of debt, and the Fed is being extremely unwise in its very giant rate increases. I think these will go down as some of the most foolish Fed decisions ever. But anyway, so the debt's got to be serviced.
But KKR's been loading up businesses like that for years. How's this different?
Sorry?
KKR and other private equity companies that do anything from a hostile takeover, or any sort of takeover where they bid over the current price, using leverage, using debt. I've been following that for years, and it always results in massive layoffs. And so, as somebody who's
by the way, I don't think anybody cares about that. I don't think that matters right now.
That's what I was gonna say. And I was gonna say, as long as they keep moving the bar and changing the definition of a recession, we are where we are, right?
Let's get back on topic here. We have Elon. We don't need to talk about his investments and things like that. Elon, we should send a shout out to the Twitter Spaces team because you're about to break the all-time record with the space. We're almost at 100,000 listeners right now.
Yes, we are, and it's holding.
Talking about spaces, what's the strategy moving forward?
Is awesome. I have to tell you, there are really some amazing people at Twitter, and there's actually some amazing people who actually left Twitter in recent years, and I hope they come back, because I think there's a potential to just build some amazing things here. So I don't want to I want to be exactly complimentary of some of the great work that is being done on Twitter. So it's sort of it's sort of there's a lot to criticize about Twitter and say okay, Twitter is wasting money in a lot of in really some next level ways, but also very talented people who really care about the truth of Twitter, and I'm doing my best to elevate their capabilities and give them all the resources they need. I'm very excited about community notes. This feature, Keith Coleman's running it, and there's some really first-rate engineers that are writing the code on that product that is, I think, going to be very powerful for actually fighting disinformation, not.
Can we actually see that if we're not enrolled in community notes, right? Like right now, the rest of the world isn't, right? It's just the United States and I think Canada, to my knowledge. But can you at least make it visible to other people? So even if we're not able to contribute, we can at least view it, because I feel kind of left out. I'm in Malaysia, so it's kind of hard to see it.
Yeah, actually, I asked that. I sent a note to Keith Coleman saying like, "Hey, shouldn't we just at least make this visible everywhere?" And then he said we needed to talk in person about that, but I'm not sure what.
Hey Elon, we did want to say on the Twitter Spaces during the blowout of SBF and FTX and all the other companies in crypto, there's been massive financial losses for many people, obviously. But Twitter Spaces actually became the place that drove the community together, and we've been sharing lots of stories. There were people that were suicidal because of the financial loss, and because of the community in Twitter Spaces, it prevented them taking their life. There's lots. Lots of
and to add to it as well, Elon. Last time, if you remember when you joined the space about Sam, that space ended up going for 16 hours, and for 3-4 days, the media was in our space, getting the news from the space for 4 days, 5 days straight, and then writing stories on it day after day. And I think Simon was there, Kim was there, so it was I think it's the first time it happens to that extent on Twitter Spaces, and we're probably doing it again today.
Yeah, and this type of citizen journalism that you are enabling is so powerful, you know, because we are the news now. If people want to learn the truth, they go to Twitter and join these spaces. You know, it's like real time with experts. It's fantastic. And then we have people like you joining in and sharing their opinions and their thoughts. What is more powerful than that? The traditional media can pack and it's game over for them.
Elon, would you ever consider holding a space for earnings for Tesla right here live on Twitter?
Oh man, you know, I have to say, you know, Tesla being a public company, it just creates such a gigantic attack surface for legal firms in the U.S., especially these class action firms.
Yeah, that seems like a bad idea.
I've been to spaces that other CEOs held, and they did their earnings live right on Twitter, and I thought it was quite amazing.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
You've made Elon. You've just made two promises. You've made two promises, man. Now you've made this one, and you've made one to Kim about the you made a promise to Kim about the poll, and now you made a promise to hold the Tesla meeting here on Spaces. So just I'll remind you afterwards about it as well.
I will.
Elon, I've been getting a lot of questions.
I will do those things.
Yeah. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people who are just bombarding me just to ask you, right? Because, you know, we're in the space. They're asking, what are you going to do about the shadow banning situation? Because, like, I'm personally search banned. I'm not shadow banned, but I am search banned, and I'm not sure what's even up with that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've only been on the job like a month, guys. So there's definitely, I've got a long list of things to do. But there needs to be a general, we need to say, like, your account should actually just tell you are search banned or you are deboosted or whatever it is, and why, and what the process is for fixing that. Now, this week, I should tell you that we were probably a little overzealous, and that's, if anything, that's my fault, because I'm just trying to get rid of the damn scams and spam and bots and stuff, and so in trying to stamp out or reduce the bot spam scam stuff, there will be some false positives. So that's just this week, but be taking. I know it's going to be an iterative journey towards truth and towards a healthier system. So
you just got to be patient. I think, right?
At any given point, it will be broken, but it will be moving as quickly as possible towards a good place. And I encourage people to, you know, complain about it and whatnot. But it will move iteratively towards a good place. That's the goal. And I generally move pretty fast. So on the net, you know, the vector sum of those decisions over time should be.
I'm losing him.
Yeah. By the way, Kim, check my DMs. Kim, check my DMs. Kim, check my DMs because I'm having glitches, so I might need your help with a few things. Elon, you're back. Elon.
Yep.
Yep, he's here.
Oh, you're back. Another question. I think you made a reference once to WeChat. I think that was a while ago, and I don't recall it correctly. Does that reference still stand today? Is that a potential vision for Twitter?
Yeah, I was just using WeChat as an example. It's not like you would copy WeChat exactly, but it's just WeChat has a lot of functionality that Twitter should have. Like it's kind of a no-brainer for Twitter to have payments, both fiat currency and crypto, and to make that easy and simple for people to use. As talked about earlier, adding the ability to post long-form written content and video content, and to be able to monetize that easily.
Nice to have a playlist, like YouTube does.
Yeah. But my focus in the first month and also will be the case in December is just making sure that Twitter is operating efficiently as a company, that it is not wasting money, because it faces challenges on the revenue front, from with an overdependence on advertising that is not targeted, like brand advertising, and in a market where advertising revenue in general is dropping, and then also when you start questioning the status quo, then various pressure groups start pressuring advertisers to not advertise with you. So that's another challenge on the revenue front. And then you got the debt, and the debt now has a very high interest rate. So it's like these are a lot of challenges simultaneously that I think we'll solve these challenges, but these are a lot of things to solve. So the first order of business is just get Twitter healthy. Make sure its expenditures are reasonable. That Twitter's like primarily a software company. There are obviously design elements, but it's primarily software and servers. And so, like, is the software team organized well? Those that are committing good code, and just making the engine of engineering work at Twitter. Because if you look at, say, like, what is Twitter's technology evolution over time, excluding acquisitions, it's been very low. The technology of Twitter has been very slow.
10 years to an edit button.
Yeah, exactly. The edit button, look, I mean, if it takes a year to do an edit button and the edit button still doesn't work properly, then you can have a million good ideas, but they're irrelevant because you can't implement them.
So Elon, I've got a quick question for you, my friend. I was removed from the space.
Hey, I want to test my mic. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Maybe you can't. Can you hear me?
Alex, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let Alex ask the first question.
Okay. Does Alex want to go, and then I can go?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So my question was, if the Twitter files, are those also going to include other content other than Hunter Biden? So basically all cases?
Yeah.
Alex, Mario, we can't hear you.
This is a bit of an audio shit show. Let's try and get this back on the road. I unmuted everyone. I muted everyone. I'm going to unmute those who are not talking. Just mute yourself, please.
I would like to ask Elon a quick question.
Okay, trying this again.
I think Alex just did, and he was ready to respond. He just now would have to unmute himself to respond to Alex.
Yeah, I was just wondering if all accounts that were requested to have things taken down by the DNC and by the Biden campaign, even ones that have nothing to do with the Hunter Biden laptop, if they will also be released.
Elon, you're muted.
You got to unmute. Yeah, you got to unmute.
Yep, he's got to unmute.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, the intent is to release all the files. So there's not like anything that's hidden or anything.
I can't hear anybody.
He dropped out. Is my mic good, Kim, by the way? Is my mic okay?
We can hear you.
You just
Mario,
sound like you are in.
Oh, he's back. He's back. He's back.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
Oh,
can you
okay.
guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Elon.
Yeah. You cut out. Yeah, you cut out for a second while you were answering Alex.
I mean, I think this is, this is like whatever Stasi files or, Truth and Reconciliation. Like Nelson Mandela would say, it's if you want reconciliation, there must be truth. So, that's the intent here. Intent here is to just make it clear what was happening, and provide transparency about the past, and in doing so, to build trust about the future.
Awesome. So do you think that Twitter could also have an automatic notification if anyone was, say, if their account was requested content taken down? Do you think there could be something like that implemented?
Yeah, like the VPN sites actually offer that.
Yeah, I mean, you mean if if a government has a takedown request or something like that?
Yeah. Like if the government
example,
says, "Hey, we want you censored," I mean, I think
for example,
even Germany would
James
let you know,
Woods.
right? So why doesn't America? Yeah.
Or with James Woods, for example, how his content was, they requested his content be removed. Say if that happened from the Biden campaign.
I think both past and future requests should be made public. And sunshine is a great disinfectant, and so if he is if they request content takedowns that are embarrassing, then they'll be less likely to request those content takedowns. At the end of the day, Twitter, it doesn't have a choice but to abide by the laws of the U.S. and whatever countries it's operating in. Otherwise, you get arrested. But we shouldn't do more than that. It should be abide by the laws because you have to. If there may be some potential to say well, if we disagree with the law, maybe we can lobby to have a law changed or something like that. But
So Elon, I want to ask you on this point. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but I'm saying the overarching goal here is that on balance that Twitter be a force for good for the future of civilization, and for the expansion of consciousness.
So to that point, I want to ask you then, because I'm speaking from the European lens, what do you think about the EU's proposals over potential restrictions to the use of Twitter?
I think we're losing you a little bit.
Or equally, I know you had a little bit of a, shall we say, fanfare with Alex Vindman earlier this week. I was wondering if you would be interested in a space with you and him, since I know him from the week ago. We had a chat. I invite you to,
why
to
would
debate.
anyone want to talk
If
to
you'd
Alex
be
Vindman?
interested. If you'd be interested.
Don't waste your time with the intelligence community, man.
Seriously, yeah.
I'm teasing. But I am curious about your thoughts from the European Union perspective.
Well, actually, there's a lot of the EU rules call for things that I agree with, which is transparency and an ability for users to appeal and have a clear process. So I think in terms of the Digital Services Act, I think it's mostly good. I think we have to watch the implementation of it and make sure the implementation is not bad for the people of Europe, but the actual I think most of what is in there I agree with, because it's transparency and accountability. It seems quite sensible. We just need to make sure that it's not warped in a bad direction. But generally, I agree with it, or at least what I know of it today.
But
I
what
have
about
a follow-up
the
question for you,
thing
Elon.
is that we don't allow governments to define what misinformation or disinformation is, right? I mean, that is probably the most dangerous development, to give governments that kind of power that they become the deciders of what's truth and what is not.
Yeah, no, that is a big deal. I agree. That goes to the heart of the situation, is that you don't want to have governments, and especially it may not even be sort of it may not be an elected official, maybe someone who's potentially a mid-level executive in a ministry who's deciding this, and who people don't even know exists and was never elected, despite being in a democratic country. So
what about the China protests? What role do you think that Twitter can have in helping to support Iran, Ukraine, China, and other countries that are facing, technological oppression and limitation in their access to freedom of speech?
Well, yeah, like I said, we'll do whatever is possible within the bounds of the law. So,
I have a kind of a personal question, and I've been curious. Was there a breaking point that made you decide to want to buy Twitter?
Man, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I was hoping you would say the child exploitation that you've done more to get rid of in the past month than they did in the past 10 years on Twitter. And I wanted to thank you for that. And I'm sorry that the media has completely snubbed you on mentioning the fact that you guys have gone above and beyond to make that happen. And Eliza Blue, thank you for your work and efforts there.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank Eliza Blue. I would like to thank Andrea as well. We've actually had, this is actually like a really good case of crowdsourcing of having people on Twitter actually help solve the child exploitation stuff. It is true. Yes, Twitter has done more to stop child exploitation in the last month than probably the last 10 years. That's insane. It kind of blows my mind, frankly. And we're going to keep doing it, and it's always going to be number one. I mean, it's like kids can't defend themselves, so we must defend them as adults. So, yeah.
Back to the question by Ian.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to buy Twitter?
Mario, we can't hear you.
Mario, you sound like a mosquito now.
Sounds like he's in the toilet, to be honest.
Elon, do you still have plans to drop the W? Everyone is asking.
I mean, technically the poll did come out positive on that. So
The people have spoken.
No, the people have not spoken. But more to my question, I don't think you answered that. I want to know, what was the breaking point? I think a lot of people want to know this one. What was the breaking point that made you want to buy Twitter?
Well, first of all, I suppose if Twitter had been, if I'd been able to buy Twitter sooner, then I might have actually done that. But there had to be a situation where my liquidity was enough and Twitter's value was, whether there was essentially a closing price, would I actually have it? That wasn't the case until recently. But I guess it just felt like it really had been building for some time. So I wouldn't say there was it wasn't like a step change suddenly. This is a one thing. It's not like, oh, the Babylon Bee got banned, that's why I bought Twitter. That would be crazy. It's more that there just seemed to be this more and more groupthink amongst the media, more and more sort of towing the line amongst digital social media companies, and basically just we're traveling the path more and more of suppression of free speech, and this was just getting me concerned. It's like the trends were just very, very bad. So unless something was done to reverse this trend against free speech, then I felt, well, maybe that at some point everything will just get cut off, and unless you're in agreement with whatever the groupthink is, then you're just going to be ostracized, or your voice will be shut off. So like I said, it wasn't any one thing. It was just like, okay, I can't exactly say why, because it's like one of those things where it's like it's just that my biological neural nets said it is important to buy Twitter, and you just like with a digital neural net, you can't really exactly explain why the neural net is able to understand an image or text, but just say that the collective result of the neural net says that this is an important action, or this is the right action, and my biological neural nets concluded that it was important to buy Twitter, and that if Twitter was not bought and steered in a good direction, that it would be a danger for the future of civilization, and so that's why I bought it.
That's brilliant.
Elon, you mentioned the biological neural net and the digital neural net. When is Neuralink going to be ready to copy our consciousness into a
And
computer
please, can I sign
forever?
up? Where can I sign up for it? Because I would love to have my brain augmented. It's like cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly. It's going full cyberpunk at this point.
Yep.
Deus Ex.
Elon, I
Ghost
want
in
to
the
pose
shell.
the other side to that. I'm sure you're familiar with Doctor Who, right? And the Cybermen, and this idea of a centralized system by which you can influence people's thoughts. Is that not a consideration that you have on your radar, if you get what I'm coming from?
Well, I mean, frankly, on the Neuralink front, if I look at the pace at which artificial intelligence is improving versus the pace at which Neuralink is progressing, artificial intelligence is moving much faster than Neuralink is moving, because as soon as anything gets done with humans, it gets very slow because of the danger to humans. So for the next few years, Neuralink is really just focused on restoring movement to people that have a broken neck or spine, and restoring vision. So it's restoring movement and vision. It's not, uploading memories or controlling thoughts or anything like that. It's pretty basic stuff. It's like the early days of computers,
It's basic, but it's life-changing, though, right? I mean, being able to see, if you're born blind, that's a gift that I don't think anyone would pass up. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and that's very doable. What I'm saying about Neuralink is that you'll be able to see anything that Neuralink's doing. You'll be able to see coming from very far off, because you've got to go through the whole FDA device approval process. That takes ages. You've got to evaluate the safety in humans, and that takes a long time. So it basically is very slow compared to the development of digital superintelligence, which is very fast. Now, I do think, and I've said this for a long time, that we ought to be more cautious in the development of digital superintelligence, because this represents a danger to the public. And just as we have other regulatory agencies that oversee dangers to the public, like the FDA or the FAA, or any one of a number of FCC, you can't just have companies just going hog wild on developing digital superintelligence with no oversight.
Do you potentially see this happening in a country where there are no oversights, where the governments allow the scientists to go hog wild, as you said?
Well, look, there's the things we can control and things we can't control, and I think there should be some kind of oversight in North America and Europe, which is where a lot of the AI innovation is happening. There should be some kind of oversight beyond nothing, which is currently the case.
How far do you think we are from general artificial intelligence? Like, what is your time frame, you think, until we have the big deal?
I mean, I think it's happening very fast. You have to say, like, AGI is defined by where digital superintelligence is smarter than the smartest human. What is your definition of AGI?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once AI is able to basically program itself and understands how to advance itself, that would be the level where we need to start to worry, right?
Yeah.
Well, to add to that, Elon, I mean, what about this? Last year after the pandemic, we had the Great Resignation. And now there's the concern about the replacement of traditional labor jobs with, AI and machine technology. I think it was you, I saw the video and the capacity for it to control things with its mind. Is there not a concern about the potential impact it has on, very menial jobs and the those people who don't have necessarily the skills or ability to retrain that quickly? Just, how can we plan in advance to minimize the consequences of that?
Sorry, the audio is like not good right now. So,
oh, no worries.
Ian,
coming through fine.
And maybe lead the conversation again because you can hear you fine, Ian.
Hey,
yeah, we can't hear you, Mario.
Maybe we can have another space sometime in the future to talk about AI, because I think that is one of the big topics, where a lot of people don't really realize how big the risk of AI is, and what you are always asking for is, more regulation, better rules in order to prevent the worst case scenario of, an AGI taking over and basically wiping out humanity.
Look at artists and their jobs. I mean, Midjourney has basically replaced graphic artists for book covers. You don't need a book artist anymore. You can just do it with AI.
Not to change the subject back to the Twitter files, but Kim, I just want to ask Elon a quick question about Section 230. Are you concerned about that now and what the government could potentially do to Section 230 as a result of the flattening that you're creating at Twitter and all the truth that you're pushing out and the objectivity?
Well, I think it is, and I did say this on Twitter publicly. It is good that we actually that the House will be Republican. It's generally not a good idea if in the U.S. if the House, Senate, and executive branch are all of one party, then you have sort of situation. So it's good to have at least one of those branches be the other party, because then they will check the worst excesses of both parties. So I think I think it's good that the House will be Republican, and at least. And people interpreted that as like, oh, I must be some huge Republican or something. It's like, no, I'm a huge moderate, actually, is what I am. It's just like, I wish people were rigorously moderate. But like, by its nature, being moderate does not lend itself, you cannot be, it's like, be fanatically moderate. but fanaticism and
be a radical centrist, I think some YouTubers like to say, right? Be a radical centrist.
Yeah, exactly, radical centrist. So it's just like you want to have the government pass laws that are in the best interest of the people, not that are in the interest of a small segment of the people. And so that's why I think if you have a mixture of parties in control, then they will pass only things that sort of are the intersection of sets of what both parties agree on, which is more likely to be in the interest of the people. So I think I guess I feel pretty okay about that Section 230 stuff. Yeah.
Elon,
can you just quickly, guys? Can you hear me now or no? I've got great speakers that just came up because now it's not glitching for me anymore. So I've just welcomed Clayton, Patrick, David is on stage as well, and there's more speakers about to come up that all of you would know. Now my space is working. So guys, feel free to jump in and ask Elon any questions.
Hey, thank you so much.
If you want to retry the co-host thing too, Mario. Sorry
I will
about
now.
that,
I will
Clay.
now. Yeah, I will now. I will now. Go ahead, Clay, and then Patrick. Go ahead, Clay.
Hey, thanks, Elon. This is Clayton from Redacted. One of the stories we've been covering on our show over the past couple of months is Dr. Shiva's lawsuit. He was banned from Twitter running for the Senate from Massachusetts. And one of the things in his lawsuit that was uncovered was the back-end government portal to both Facebook and Twitter, the Trusted Twitter Partnership. And I know on Twitter's blog that Trusted Twitter Partnership between Twitter and someone with a government email address could reach out to Twitter and basically have accounts banned, taken down. Is that portal, is that Trusted Partnership still available to the government? And given what you've released in the Twitter files, does it make sense for that to still be there?
I got to dig into this Trusted Partnership thing. Obviously that has like some Big Brother vibes. Twitter will adhere to the law, but it will not do. It's not going to go beyond the law. And if there are laws that don't seem to be the interest of the people, then Twitter will push to change the laws to be in the interest of the people. But I'll dig into this Trusted Partnership thing, find out what's going on. Yeah.
By the way, Clayton, I do watch Redacted, and I love you and your wife. You're doing an amazing job, so keep it going.
Eric, Sebastian, did you have a question?
Yes,
I'm not sure if your mic will
I
work.
do, Elon, and
Go ahead, Eric.
it may be a follow-up to the prior question. Elon, in the Twitter, the Twitter files, the things that you found, did you find any relationship between Facebook and any other TikTok, whomever, with regards to what could be considered, the collusion with a certain political parties? Was it, in other words, was there any collusion among other social media groups with Twitter?
I've not directly seen that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I've not seen it yet. In fact, in terms of the Twitter files, Matt TV's read way more than I have, like by a ton. Because my priority has been just getting Twitter healthy and fixing Twitter engineering so that we can actually, release features at a high rate. So, that's been my priority on the Twitter front. Is we've got to get Twitter to be in a financially healthy place, fix the engine of engineering, so we can add the features and capabilities that'll make it much better, and improve transparency and trust and all that. So, actually, most of the stuff I've read hardly any of the Twitter files. Matt TV has. And then Barry Weiss is also getting access to it, so she'll read it too.
Have you been in contact with any of the other social platforms, Meta, Google, etc., since the release of the files? Has there been any pushback, any concerns, anything at all, or it's been pretty quiet?
They haven't reached out to me, so I'm not aware of any outreach from them. So I guess, look, if it turns out there's like stuff that the public should know about, then we'll put it out there. I told Matt TV and Barry Weiss, hey, listen, whatever you see, if you think the public should know about it, you just post it.
With regards to the dissemination of information, so right now it's just Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss. Do you have any plans to maybe give access to more journalists, like say Ryan Saavedra of Daily Wire, Jack Posobiec? I mean, he's done lots of coverage on this stuff even previously, so I'm sure they'd love to know.
Yeah, I think. I mean, maybe at some point we should just like put it all out there, So, like, I think in the beginning it's good to have some coherence, so it's not just a million stories all at once.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's a drip feed at first, and then later on it's going to be a flood, right? Because otherwise it's just too many stories, too much all at once, and then people can't really focus on anything. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, you just get drowned out in the flood of things. But I think
Yep.
once we think the stories have the critical stories have been told, then I think probably the right move is to just provide a data dump and then people can go through it and see what was missed.
Are you surprised at all about the blowback against Matt Taibbi over the past 24 hours? I mean, a number of liberal news organizations, a lot of liberal news reporters came out and really slammed Matt Taibbi, which really was really shocking. What was your response to that?
Well, I think those people should be looking in the mirror and wondering why they were deceptive. Why did they deceive the American public? And instead of trying to redirect blame to Matt Taibbi, they seem to be accepting some responsibility themselves for not being truthful to the American public.
Elon, it's Mike Cohen here. Congratulations on, of course, the acquisition of Twitter. But my question to you is, how are you going to go about combating the issue of bot farms who create so much misinformation and hate on your platform?
If the last thing I do, I will defeat the damn bots and trolls.
Maybe they need like a mind virus that purges them, just makes them self-destruct.
Yeah, I mean, it's war, and we're gonna win that war, big time.
Yeah, because
I'm confident you will.
Because the extent of the hatred that these bots cause is astronomical.
I agree.
And it's really terrible.
terrible.
But thank you for your commitment to that.
Absolutely.
Can I jump in and ask a question here, Michael?
Just real quick, I wanted to say something about the bots. So there are, of course, commercial bots, right? People trying to do spam, but the more dangerous bots are those that are trying to interfere in discourse and try to manipulate the conversation. And those are primarily run by governments, right? They're run by the intelligence community in different countries. They're trying to manipulate the way people are talking, for example, about Ukraine. I think one of the more famous examples here are these so-called NAFO bots that are going out and shooting everyone down.
Real people.
Yeah, often where they're mixing it, right? So the intelligence community does it in that way. They have real people, then they have bots that are fully automated, and then they even let their intelligence community employees work with Twitter profiles to chime in as well. But all with one goal, which is to manipulate the public discourse towards their goals. And I think you experienced that yourself when you spoke out for peace in Ukraine. You were attacked by these same bots.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I've been in the job a month. I'm very good at software. I wrote software for 20 years. I was very good back in the day at defeating the scammers. The bad actors had free reign in the system before. They will not have that in the future. I look forward to that battle. We will expose those who are acting to manipulate public opinion and shine a bright light on it. So,
fantastic.
Hey, Kim, if I could just
answer.
ask a quick question on that same topic, because there was a point at which I was told by someone who apparently had access to this Discord server for these NATO or NAFO trolls that I was among their top targets, or even the #1 target for a while. So I'm just sort of a personal curiosity. By the way, this is Michael Tracy. And so, Elon, I'm just curious if you were able to detect or gauge any inauthentic activity on Twitter specifically related to this sort of pro-Ukraine faction, or was there a particular sort of system that kind of connects those actors that you were able to discern since you've taken the helm?
Well, the tools that Twitter currently has to detect large-scale manipulation are quite weak and need to be strengthened considerably. That's why, but in order for them to be strengthened, we must, like I said, build the engine of engineering and to be able to sort of see what's going on in the system. I mean, over and over again, it's been, it's like Twitter doesn't know what's going on in Twitter. That's actually the issue. So we need to build the tools that can analyze what's going on and see where is there evidence of large-scale manipulation, and in order to highlight it. And I think even if it's not shut down, if it is simply highlighted and said, wait a second, these accounts are all acting in concert, they're acting in a way that is faster than a human could possibly coordinate. This appears to be a linked, 100,000 bots linked that are all acting in concert, and just say, expose them essentially. But those software tools need to be written, and they have not yet been written. So they will be.
I have written those tools, so I can give them to you.
Right, Elon, wouldn't it be easier if you were able to use some form of two-part authentication in order to ensure that the individual...
You've dropped out, Ian. You've dropped out, Michael. Oh, you're back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Elon, would it not be easier to just use some form of two-part authentication to ensure that the individual is who they say they are?
Yes. So this is part of what's the game plan with the sort of blue verified thing, is that right now it is there are problems on many levels. It's too cheap to have a bot. So and even a troll, like it's not just that somebody's operating a bunch of 10,000 instances of Twitter accounts, in a bank of PCs. It's like you can have a warehouse with, and there are many parts of the world, like warehouse where there's just banks of phones. So they actually are operated by people. The challenge right now, so the challenge is actually, you have to make it more expensive to have bots and trolls. It can't be like,
it's like a guy sitting in front of 8 phones, right? That's just how they operate.
Exactly. It's like
the farms are a guy sitting in front of 8 phones.
There's like.
Well, unfortunately, the disinformation budget for the CIA for these NAFO bots is over $100 million. I mean, even if you throw $8 per month per account in front of them, it's not. Is that really going to stop them?
Not the $8. If it was purely a question, then I think they could overcome a budget challenge, but also then having to have a huge number of phones and a huge number of credit or debit cards, these all amplify the difficulty, and then having, if you want to do it such that that you can't find any connection between 100,000 phones and 100,000 credit cards and 100,000 authenticated phone numbers, that's very difficult to do. Just the logistical difficulty of that is extremely high. So it's more like you need to process some amount of money through the payment system in order to piggyback off the authentication of the payment system. So $8 is kind of like a random number, obviously. But there's another thing that has to be accomplished simultaneously, which is that Twitter cannot be like so heavily dependent on advertisers. So this is an attempt to kill two birds with one stone, which is build a source of revenue that is not advertiser dependent, so the advertisers do not have too much sway over what happens on Twitter, and also use the payment system as an additional means of identifying and stopping large-scale manipulation of the system.
And just to add on to that, when you have a lot of users signing up, their advertisers are going to realize that these are real people, right? They're all verified individuals. So that will make them want to advertise on the site. So it's win-win-win, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Kim, can I ask a quick follow-up to my question? Would you mind? Elon, I'm just...
Okay, I have to just stop this for a second because everyone is talking over each other. Elon just made a really important point, which is that he has more freedom to do what is good for his users if he is less dependent on advertisers. So there's a large group of people here. I think everyone who appreciates what Elon is doing for us right now in this fight for freedom of speech should support him. And the best way you can support him is to become a subscriber at Twitter. You're using this great service all the time. If you want him to have more power and more freedom to achieve these goals for us, well, make that $8 a month investment. I think it's really worth it.
The price of a lot.
Did Elon already say when he plans to reinstate the verification, the $8 verification process?
Yeah,
Elon, you're muted.
Elon, you're muted. I was going to tell you because Kim muted everyone.
Oh, sorry. It seems to sometimes mute me, I guess. Yeah, so I think we're probably about a week away. Basically, this coming week, we should be able to restart the verification process.
Will it be global, or is it just the U.S. still?
Actually, I'm going to discuss that with the team. So this time for verification, we're taking some additional steps where one has to be phone verified with a known good carrier, and we're also will offer people the opportunity, if they want, to do ID verification, kind of like what Airbnb does, similar thing, and they do that all around the world. And then you'll be able to look at an account and say, this account is payment verified, it is verified, it is ID verified, optionally, and also to establish organizational affiliation. Do you actually have affiliation with this organization? And providing organizations with the ability to define, to state which set of users are affiliated with that organization. So, like, are you actually a professor at Stanford, or are you actually, for example, a reporter at the New York Times or whatever, or an employee of PepsiCo or whatever it is? So, just generally to have granularity and nuance to what verified means, as opposed to the sort of like grab bag of nonsense, which has been the past blue verified situation, where you could have been an intern at Mashable 10 years ago, and now you've got blue verified, and it's kind of crazy. And then they were also just being traded constantly. You just buy a verified badge, so you can't actually tell if something is blue verified. For legacy blue, you can't tell if that is a legitimate situation, a crypto scam, whether they're actually you don't know, because there's no granularity to it. And there's
a way to buy them off of Google right now. Like, you can literally Google verified accounts and they sell them for like $200, $500 or something, right?
Yes, exactly. It's not like blue verified. It's not like you have to go to the, in quotes, dark web to buy blue verified. You can literally Google search it and it's on page 1 of the Google search results if you want to buy a legacy blue verified. So it's just basically it's just the legacy has been verified as a corrupt garbage file. And so we need to move forward with something that gives granularity and detail and nuance about the nature of the verification, so that you can actually trust what you see.
Elon, you said some really admirable things about freedom of speech and your commitment to it and its role in the future of humanity. You didn't answer the question about supporting protesters in China and Iran. Is there freedom of speech for Chinese people important?
It's already
for the future
banned
of humanity?
in China. Just so you know, like Twitter is inaccessible in China. You need a VPN, so it's kind of a pointless question.
So you don't think making it accessible for Chinese or Iranian?
It doesn't matter.
It's not Elon. It's not Elon blocking it. Tommy, you had a question, Tommy?
That was Tommy.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Tommy.
That was Tommy. Yeah, he was wrong.
Can you address the question of the freedom of speech at Sebastian Gorka here? Because a lot of people are confused that it's a First Amendment issue, what was dumped by Matt Taibbi. The First Amendment concerns government suppression. So anything that happened before January the 20th isn't First Amendment unless it was the Biden administration afterwards. So for those who think that, we've got the smoking gun and they don't need to wait for anything else, could you address that issue, Mr. Musk?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, actually, there are issues if there's election interference before the government, because that is, I think, an issue. It's certainly Twitter. It would appear that Twitter falsely claimed that there was not election interference, but it would.
Right, but that has to do with in-kind contributions. That's a very different kind of thing, and it is criminal. But can you tell us if there will be more smoking guns coming?
Yeah, I think there will be more smoking guns, because the obvious next question is, well, what happened after the election?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably the right thing for episode 2, is what happened after the election.
And how long do we have to wait for episode 2?
I don't know. I'll check with Matt.
Will, just quickly. Will, go ahead, Will.
Thank you. Elon, apologies if you addressed this earlier. I appreciate how long you've been on this call. What subjects outside of Hunter Biden, by the way, this is Will Kane from Fox News, what subjects outside of Hunter Biden were subject to the most government-induced censorship?
As I said, you may not have heard my earlier comment, but I don't actually, like I said, me personally, I've been working on getting Twitter to be healthy and fixing the engine of engineering. I've not been sort of poring over the Twitter files personally. That's sort of been, Matt Taibbi is doing that, and Barry Weiss is going to do it now as well. So anything I say would be somewhat of a, guesswork, really. So I don't know. There's obviously a lot of questions around Jan 6th. There's questions around, COVID. There's a lot of questions. But I think the important thing is that we just get, bring daylight to all of these things. And so anything that Twitter has done, and sometimes things, a lot of times Twitter's done things that wasn't malicious, it was just foolish. So the things that are
like the nuking people for NPCs, right? For posting NPC memes, thousands of people were banned.
Yeah, exactly.
From just a quick question, with the companies that stopped advertising on Twitter, which I think most of us agree is just not right, has there been any progress since? Have you been in discussions with them? And what are some other strategies to bring in revenue so we depend less on advertisers?
You can hear this is Eric Bowling again. I don't know if you have any knowledge or you can have any proof that there's some indication that a lot of people on the right side of the political aisle lost a ton of followers. I would say from 2015, 2016, all the way through towards the end of 2021. I'll give you anecdotally myself, I lost 80,000 or so, and not until, this is literal, not until you purchase Twitter did I start gaining followers again in a fairly robust manner. Is there any proof of that? Do you have any evidence of that being sort of a plan or a strategy on Twitter's part?
Again, like I said, I have not read the Twitter file, so it's difficult for me to say that. Except, so my understanding is limited, and that's why I would leave it to Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss and ultimately others. But if I say what is my best guess is that there was a very different standard applied to Republican candidates in the U.S. versus Democrat candidates. So there appears, and I emphasize appears, I'm not saying this is definitely the case, there appears to have been a double standard where Democrats were not censored and left causes were not censored, but right causes and Republicans were. And I think this is frankly obvious to anyone who uses Twitter without any expose of Twitter files. It was not even-handed, and it's frankly the behavior that is to be expected from an organization that is based in San Francisco, which is far left. So from their standpoint, it wouldn't seem like that they're being unfair. That from their standpoint, it's simply how they see the world. I think Matt posted like political contributions of Twitter being over 99% Democrat. So, well, what kind of viewpoint would you expect people to have then? It's the behavior you would expect from a company that is essentially a distillation of San Francisco politics.
And I hope that. By the way, just really quick. By the way, I want to make a suggestion. I want to make a suggestion real quick. Elon, when you are speaking, we can hear you really well. When you are listening, the background noise from your jet is interfering a little.
Okay, sure.
Can you just mute yourself when you are not speaking?
Yeah. So anyway, I have a question. Like, so when you're making the files available to everybody, or rather more people, I would just like to request that that I don't know, give it to me because I work for Rebel News, and I think we could do a tremendous job covering this as much as anybody else, really. Yeah.
So Tim Cass is trying to come up, by the way, Elon, just to ask you a question. But in the meantime, I just want to go back, and I know that Persistence has a question as well. I'll give you the mic right after Persistence. But one question again, back to the advertisers, Elon. Not sure if you heard it before. Any progress there with the advertisers that stopped advertising on Twitter, which we all agree is just not right, and any other strategies to bring revenue outside of advertising? You're muted, Elon.
Yeah, so so Apple has fully resumed advertising, which is appreciated. Apple is the single biggest advertiser on Twitter, and historically and presently. So thanks Apple for fully resuming advertising. And I think we are starting to see a lot of other advertisers also resume their spending. I think the problem is that they would read all these stories in the media and then think that they were true, and they're not true. And then as it's becoming clear that the media stories about Twitter being some sort of like right-wing hellscape, which it absolutely isn't. And in fact, it is. There are far fewer bots, far fewer trolls, and it's actually, I think, way more fun and interesting. And we're seeing that in the user minutes and in the daily average users. Then advertisers are like, oh, okay, I guess maybe it is safe to get back in the water, and so we are seeing advertisers resume advertising on Twitter. So that's a good sign. I wish it would be faster, but we are seeing them resume. The more concerning factor on the advertising front is just the entire industry-wide drop in advertising, which Twitter is not immune from. So even though advertisers do get back on, the advertising expenditures in general are dropping for all companies. And so it is imperative that Twitter have an alternate revenue source, hence the subscriber revenue, which is just very important for both of the survival and of Twitter, and to reduce its dependence on advertisers. So yeah, overall, I think I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. yeah, so
And I want to. I'll add one point of credit. Like I have no stance. I have nothing against the old executives at Twitter, etc. But very objectively speaking, what you've done in a month, and again, that's purely being objective. What you've done in a month is fucking insane. The amount of progress that you've had and where Twitter is at now in such a short period of time. So not that you need more credit because you're getting a lot here, but I just want to add to it as well. I'll give the mic to the Persistence, who's been waiting for a while, and then Spike. Go ahead, Persistence.
Well, on for making this a popular social media. My question is, do we have any information on advertisers threatening to pull money from Twitter if Twitter did not adhere to a policy? And additionally, do we have any information on congressmen or women who have threatened legislation should Twitter not adhere to a certain policy? And last, I was really intrigued by your comment on positivity and negativity in tweets, you saying that positive tweets would go further. And I just wanted to see what would constitute the measurement from Twitter that would make something positive or negative. Thank you.
You're muted, Elon. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sure. Well, the advertisers, I mean, for the most part, the advertisers are quite rational in that, you know, if you, especially if you're advertising a family-friendly product, that you don't want to be sort of, you know, like let's say you're advertising a Disney movie, you don't want to have like some super negative sort of hate speech, or you know, to the and also a movie or whatever, and you also they don't want to have not safe for work content right next to you know, ads for children toys and stuff like that. So that stuff is quite reasonable, and I agree with that. You know, advertisers have a right to have their advertising be next to non-advertising content that is consistent with their brand. So that really just means like you know, what is not attempting to monetize with advertising content that advertisers are uncomfortable with. So I think in general it's been okay. I mean, I think there has been some overzealous action by activist groups that pressure the advertisers, that then in turn pressure Twitter. And you know, we're trying to sort of, you know, that I thought was somewhat unreasonable. But I think it's going to trend in a good direction going forward, but I'm not sure. But it looks like it's headed in a good direction. Like I said, advertisers are returning to Twitter. Apple's back at full ad spend, and I've had a number of conversations with the advertiser groups, and every time I've had those conversations, the advertisers have responded positively, and I've also just, because they're like, I mean, they're basically they end up reading the sort of mainstream media, and it's like, you know, and then they end up with all the wrong impressions of what's going on. And I said, well, have you tried using Twitter? Do you see these things for yourself? And they're like, actually, it seems fine when we use Twitter. Like, yes, that's because it is fine. And so then, and then I also tell them, like, look, as we try to grow Twitter's user base, if a new user comes on Twitter and then is immediately attacked by trolls and dumped on, they're going to want to leave. So, because who wants to go? It's like going into a party or something and everyone just starts yelling at you. You're going to want to leave that party. So, you know, Twitter does need to be a more welcoming environment for new users. And so the incentives are actually aligned. That if people come on and they see interesting, funny tweets, things that where they learn something new, or it's entertaining, it's funny, it's like, that's the kind of thing that we should see more of. And and that's consistent with what most advertisers want, I think, and what Twitter wants in order to grow the user base. And then just generally over time, it's like kind of, people can be, I think, to some degree, choose what sort of experience they like. Just like you can choose a radio station. Like, some people want to listen to sort of smooth jazz, easy listening, or they may want to go to, pop music, or they want to go to heavy metal thrash, and to each their own. Or if this was, do you want to have like full contact martial arts, or do you want to have, light contact, or do you want to do yoga? And you can decide which one of those, what kind of experience you want. That's going to be important in order to have Twitter appeal to a broad audience. Yeah, so that's the rough game plan.
Tom, I'll let
Elon,
you got a question, Tom?
Just wanted to ask really quick. He had mentioned different color check marks for verification for different entities. Was that still going to be part of the new verification process?
Yeah, so again, like the goal is like to say, how do you convey to people using Twitter as quickly as possible and as clearly as possible what they're seeing. So there will be a gold check mark for commercial organizations, a gray check mark for government, and a blue check mark for verified individuals. And then there will also be an organizational affiliation logo. So like next to your check, let's say you're a verified user, if you are a professor at Stanford and Stanford is participating in identifying who is a professor, then there would be like a tiny Stanford logo that would appear next to your blue check mark. So then as you're scrolling, it's like you can see, oh, this is actually a Stanford professor, or this person actually does work at Coca-Cola, and there's the clarity there.
Will there be a process for this to apply for an organization for, let's say you're a part of a small news organization and you want to apply for this status? Will it be available to the public, or is this something that's going to be very selective?
No, it will be available to the public. So it's sort of, so it's not going to be like an anointed set of companies. Now, there will be a strong policy against impersonation and deception. So if someone's attempting to deceive users, then their account will be suspended. So that's yeah.
I've got a question here. I'll give it to Tom, just by a pretty notable person that doesn't want to disclose their identity, but it's a simple question. By the way, anyone that has a question, you could DM me. The team is checking all the DMs. The question is plans for crypto Twitter payments, whether it's going to be like WeChat or whether you have plans at all.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hell yeah, Dogecoin to the moon.
Doge to the moon.
Yeah,
I think we do want to have Twitter enable both regular payments and fiat currency, and make it easier to transact with crypto. Yeah.
Okay, I've got another question here from a big YouTuber as well. Elon, one of the first, so they're asking, they want to bring YouTube creators to Twitter. What's your plan with, what's your Twitter creator plan, if there is one?
Yeah, so, well, for video, we need to upgrade the Twitter system to be able to have longer video, and then enable creators to derive revenue from viewership, which is a combination of advertising and subscription. So these are obviously things that need to happen. Like I said, in order for these to happen, like you could have a wish list a mile long, but if the engine of engineering is not fixed, the wish list is so that's why I am focused on fixing Twitter engineering first and foremost. In the absence of that, you could have a wish. Whatever you wish for cannot be done because the engineering is not working.
Hey, I have a really great suggestion for you, Elon.
And right after Kim, I'll let Tom jump in right after you. Just Tom, sorry for delaying it so much. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Yeah, you know how foreign media is labeled on Twitter often as like Russian-controlled, state-controlled media? Why don't we do the same thing in the U.S. with all of these media organizations that are telling us go to war? You know, this is all great. Like, why don't we label them as well, U.S. government state media?
No, I think that's a good idea. Because, like, you know, it's like SBF gave so much money to different media organizations that, and then they just write these puff pieces, and it's like, okay, we should be labeling that SBF affiliated media because it is. Like, if you're going to write a puff piece about someone who gave you a ton of money, then the public should know that you maybe have a bias. So yeah, I mean, I think it should be if something is taking direction from the state, then that information should be made clear to the readers. Like who really has editorial control should be clear. Because that's all part of like trying to give users of Twitter the most accurate and truthful understanding of what's going on, and be able to calibrate what they read and see or hear on Twitter, to be able to calibrate the truthfulness as a function of where is it coming from, who is the author, who is controlling this from an editorial standpoint, and so then they can apply reasonable judgment in that case.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that would be a really good thing to level the playing field, because when you want to find out about what's going on in Ukraine and you get it from sources that are labeled in a certain way, and then the US news sources are not labeled at all, you know, the problem with that is that people think this source is trustworthy and this source is not trustworthy. So if Twitter has labels like this, then they need to be applied fairly also against media that is clearly pro-war and clearly infiltrated by commentators from the intelligence community who are telling us all this bullshit about why we have to be at war.
I agree. I mean, this is the maximum truth is the truth still set you free. So, yep, I agree.
Tom, do you want to ask? I know you've been waiting for a while, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
I have to sign off soon, so maybe just a couple more questions, and then I gotta go back to work here.
I'll let Tom jump in because he's been waiting.
Quickly, Elon,
yeah,
you
just
are the timeline
just before, guys.
And we appreciate keep innovating and keep creating. Thank you.
And Elon, I'll shot his. Go ahead, Tom. I'll let you ask your question, Tom, and then I'll jump in. Go ahead, Tom.
I don't think Tom's here.
Yeah, so I'll jump in, Elon. My question to you, because Tom's it's not working on his end. Well, it's actually a simple question. I'm going to shoot my shot. If I can get a DM on Twitter, so I have a line of communication, and then I can try to get you on, convince you to join more spaces. So it's not a question. It's just giving it a shot on my end. I appreciate you joining again.
This is Tom again.
Oh yeah, Tom, go ahead, man. I said my word. Now it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you. This is Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch, Elon. Appreciate your public service and your transparency efforts here. You know, my concern is, you know, as the head of a watchdog group, is the government corruption in response, you know, not only to what you potentially may uncover, but in response to what you're doing. And when you have the President of the United States from the podium celebrate his election victory by calling for a national security review of your activities, you have senators, you know, focusing on you. You have other government agencies investigating you and your other businesses. Are you concerned, A, about the retaliation, and B, are you seeing evidence of it already?
Hey, you're muted, Elon.
Well, government is slow to act. So this is the thing about it that's important to appreciate about anything government related is that they're not nimble, they are slow. So I think the actions that that we'll see, and I think there probably will be some actions will happen, but they'll happen slowly. And it's only been a month so far, but I would expect some, there's probably at least a few nefarious things that are in the works right now. I'd say it would be naive to assume that there are no nefarious things. And so I guess but I will just expose them on Twitter and see what happens.
Well, the most important thing, you don't have any suicidal thoughts, do you, Elon?
I do not have any suicidal thoughts. If I committed suicide, it's not real.
Bro, that was dark. A good one. Clay, I know Elon has to jump off, so maybe one more question or one or two. Clay, and then Ian, I'll let you end it, Ian, because you've done a great job asking questions earlier. Clay, go ahead.
Yeah, Elon, this is Clay Travis with Outkick Fox News and radio show with Clay and Buck. You said earlier, and I think it's so important, that you were thinking about just letting everybody know when you get a governmental request to censor someone or take down tweets. What kind of process is in play there, and to what extent can that happen? Because I think you're right. The sunlight of the government being embarrassed when they're going after James Woods, for instance, would drastically reduce any attempts at censorship. What's the update there? What kind of time frame? And do you think that's able to be implemented?
You're muted, Elon.
I mean, as I said earlier, like Twitter will do whatever it is allowed to do within the boundaries of the law to be as transparent and open as possible. And even if we currently are, and I don't know this to be the case, but if we are currently constrained by the law, I think we will push to have the law modified to reduce those constraints, because I think we have to fight hard for free speech, which is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. So, I think you'll see the proof will be in the pudding, and in the coming months, I think you'll see dramatic improvements in the transparency and trustworthiness of Twitter. And I think, hopefully you've seen at least some of that already, and it will get better, and I think it will get better in an accelerating way, provided I don't accidentally suicide myself, which I'm not going to do.
Elon, thank you so much for your time today. You have been such a blessing to join us, to give us your insights. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to make that poll for Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, please.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what the public thinks of these two people and what they're fighting for.
Okay. I will do the poll, and I'll emphasize that I'm not making a judgment here. I'm just asking I'll do it right after this Twitter Spaces ends.
You're just asking a question, right? Asking the public a question,
That's right.
Taking a poll, yeah.
And final, Elon.
So I have a question. Okay.
This is just a question. I'm not.
Yeah. So I got a question, since this is the last one. What message do you have for all the haters and losers out there who are making fun of you or attacking Twitter? Said it was going to die like 4 weeks ago. What's your message to them?
Twitter is alive, baby. It's alive.
Oh, yeah.
More alive than it's ever been.
Hell yeah. Beautiful.
I look forward to the Tesla earnings call right here on Twitter with you, Elon Musk.
Yeah, well, I think it will work. I got the DM, so I assume the promise you made you, Kim, and the promise you made you, Tara, should go through. Elon, really appreciate you, and hope to see you again.
My DM, Mario.
Hope to see you back.
I got questions.
Hope to see you again soon, Elon. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye.
And see you, Elon. Everyone in the audience. Quickly, everyone in the audience, just check the pinned tweet as well. I've just got the next space as well.
Congratulations, guys. That was amazing. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just for everyone listening.
baptizing fucking Jesus because you'll fucking lose your fucking head. There you go.
I'm finding this very interesting, Sid. I haven't seen you in about 8 months, and yet whenever I enter a room, I happen to have somebody that's trying to challenge my faith, which is not really working because I've been through this ring. Who knows how many times?
Your faith really should be challenged, but not by him or me, but by you, by yourself.
I'm not getting my faith challenged by Bulldog or anybody else in the room.
No, what I'm saying is you should.
I've already encountered.
You should take the high. You should take the high road.
I just can't get a thought out because Bulldog won't let me actually get a thought out.
Well, he knows what you're going to say. I mean, there's nothing new you can come up with, right? If you're defending, mythical and myths and folklore, then there's really nothing new you can come up with because myths and folklore are pretty much, they're pretty much finite.
And that's your perspective, which I understand.
I don't understand yours.
That means, from the way you look at it, that's the way you believe, which I don't have a problem with the way you believe.
I don't believe anything.
I choose to believe something different. You cannot.
I don't believe anything.
You can't tell me what I should or should not believe.
Oh, maybe, but you can't.
Because I make my own belief system based upon what I think is logical in my perspective.
I agree, but by the same token, you can tell me that I have a belief system when I don't.
I didn't say your belief system.
Yes, you did. You said I believe, and I don't believe. I don't believe anything. You said, Edmund, you said, you have your set of beliefs, and I have my set of beliefs. That's what you said, but I do not have a set of beliefs.
I said, you believe in something, and then I stated that, at least I believe in something. That was not stating the fact that you don't believe in something.
No, you said you have your set of beliefs and I have my set of beliefs.
Correct.
And that is not true. I do not have a set of beliefs. You have a set of beliefs for which you have no.
Okay, Sydney, let me ask you. So you do not have a belief that the Christianity or the religion of God or Jesus, whatever you wanted to call it, is not true.
I have knowledge that it is not true.
So therefore, you have your own knowledge, and I have my own belief.
I have universal knowledge that it's not true.
You can say it's universal, but it doesn't make it 100%
that's right.
true.
Universal means everybody knows it. Ask Bulldog, ask Tinder.
Universal in the regards of everybody knows it, not really true, because there's more people that believe in a God than that don't believe in a God.
That's no argument at all. That means nothing.
Well, I agree with you.
The argument
the
argument of majority, that means absolutely shit.
Just like other people in this room, and I have my opinion, and
have your
have
opinion,
your
but base it on
mindset,
something
and I have
rational, please. Come on, we're all adults now. We don't all. You can give up this sort of adult Santa Claus, and
like I said, you have your perspective, your point of view, the way you look at things, and I have mine. I don't have a problem with somebody talking to me one versus one in a civil discourse. Whenever I get a little heated, that's when I start having a little bit of a problem with people trying to tell me that I'm thinking so stupid and that I don't have a brain. That's when I have a problem. I don't have a doctor for that reason.
Well, I'm going to be your fucking doctor. You listen to me, okay?
Well, too bad. I don't need you.
Bad luck. The doctor needs you. You're a fucking patient. You need help.
Well, if I'm a patient, then apparently I'm not the first one you have.
I'm going to give you the help that you need, okay?
Well, if I'm your first patient, I don't know how many other ones you're going to need after you're done with me.
You're one of the fucking patients I've got, okay? So don't, hey, I've repaired a lot of people. You're just another fucking patient, okay?
Yeah, you ain't going to repair me, dude.
Oh, well, if you reckon you're
I've had my belief. I've had my belief for over 15 years. You're not going to persuade that one.
Oh, we'll still repair you. Don't worry about that.
Oh, you ain't got to sway someone like me after 15 years of seeing the stuff I've seen. Anyway, Sid.
Yes.
I am like extremely tired right now.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why I came in or wanted to join the Hangouts because I wanted to have a civil discourse with people.
Sure.
Not having any problems with anybody, not trying to be yelling at anybody or getting interrupted by anybody. Just
Oh, you
talking.
poor thing.
Yeah, but
okay, I'll get a nice fucking
hold on,
cold towel
Bulldog.
and put it over your head.
Admin, when you choose when you choose something mythical to discuss in a non-mythical, from a non-mythical perspective, it becomes very difficult to really stay focused on things that are just bizarre. Like, I don't understand how somebody, a human being with a brain, can actually entertain the concept that a creator, that a Jesus, that anything like that is actually an entity. It's beyond my limited intelligence.
Well,
can you explain it?
First off, I'll say this.
All right, man.
My belief has been the same for so many years because it's been
Indoctrinated.
It's been tried, it's been tested,
And it's
been
failed.
proven.
No, it's failed
And
on
you can
every.
never-
There's no
Can I
more.
finish?
Hey, the Bible's got more fucking failures than any other book that I know of. Right? It
Sounds like this guy tries to finish the sentence from the incorrect point of view.
Every other book what I know of. That's why I said to you before. It's got more holes in it than a second-hand dartboard. Okay, and you still want to cling on to fucking nonsense, and you can't prove it. If you had any fucking proof, prove it now. And don't start quoting bullshit nonsense out of the Bible. Prove that your God exists. Okay, prove it now.
He just believes it though. He doesn't
Yeah, I
know.
know. Yeah.
He doesn't
Harry
know that
Potter's
God
got-
exists. He just
I
believes
believe in
it.
Harry Potter before I believe.
Hold
in
on, Bulldog.
fucking
He doesn't know that God exists. He believes that God exists.
Oh, he goes, well, therefore I want proof if he believes it.
But he says it's not something that he knows. It's just something he believes, which is not really acceptable. But
That's a sellout, man.
it's his
That's
excuse.
a fucking sellout.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, cop out. That's what they do. They always when nothing fails like prayer.
They're just like a fucking free man looking for the loopholes to get out of the argument.
And they get all fucking, oh, you're talking over me. Oh, I don't like it because they like going on these fucking bad fucking nonsense fucking diatribes, talking, and they never address the points. They always talk about fucking something else what fucking is not on topic, anything to get off topic. And when it comes down to the hard crunch, prove it, they go, oh, read the Bible or look around you. You can't explain this and you can't explain
You've got to find it yourself. You've got to feel it within you.
I know.
Bullshit.
Always a fucking cop-out.
Exactly.
You know
it's
what?
like you're taking the
Nothing
moral
fails
high
like
ground, and you have no right to.
Yeah, and you can't explain fucking how your arms grow, and you can't explain how the fucking eye came about. You can't explain this. And and once you explain it, right, which there's many videos on how the fucking eye came about, then they move on to, you can't explain how your big fucking toe was bigger than all the other ones. You know? You can't explain that, can you? You can't explain why you got 5 fingers opposed to fucking 3. You can't explain it. Yeah. Fucking Jesus Christ.
I don't need to know that crap.
Come up with. It's absolutely fucking stupid at the highest level. You can't explain it, therefore fucking God.
I don't need to
And when they
explain
fucking
anything.
explain it, they move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It keeps going on and on and on. It's never
I don't
ending
need
fucking
to
bullshit
explain it.
nonsense. You can't explain it.
I don't need to explain it. My job is not to explain how things are
Can't explain why
done.
he keeps getting a fucking gas bill because he's changed the meter over. He can't explain that. Yeah, therefore fucking God. You can't explain, but God can do anything. Yeah, anything was fucking stupid he fucking can do. I know that God can't fucking build a boat, right? But he can build a fucking universe, but he can't build a fucking boat. He got a fucking human to do it. So obviously he's not all powerful. He can build a boat. You had to wait fucking for some old fucking crony to live fucking 300 or 400 years to build a fucking boat.
That's a really good point.
And Ken Ham, the biggest fucking dickhead on earth, has proven the boat can't fucking float because he only built half the fucking boat. The other half is made out of fucking concrete holding it all together. 3 big concrete fucking piers at the back of it, and not to mention all the fucking concrete piers underneath it, holding the fucking thing together with steel fucking beams. He spent all that fucking money disproving himself.
Is this true?
Not to mention all the air conditioners he put on the fucking roof, all the fucking lighting. Oh my God, what a failure that was.
This guy obviously hasn't studied the Bible at all.
Oh, yeah, he helped. I'm glad that he spent all that fucking money destroying it because he only built half a fucking boat. Even the engineers said, come on, Ken, you can't build a whole one. Oh, why not? Oh, because it can't withstand its own weight. Oh, but I want it to. You fucking make sure that fucking you build me a fucking boat. I have to prove everyone wrong. Half a fucking boat is the best they came up with. Joker man. Oh yeah. Thank you, Ken Ham, for spending $100 million fucking dollars on a boat that can't fucking float. Not to mention he used all modern day fucking stuff to fucking water fucking seal it. 3M, if I'm not mistaken, 3M on the outside to make it waterproof so the nasty weather can't get in and make everything all moldy. But Noah, oh no, his technology was better than 3M's. Of course it fucking was. Where were their mobile fucking and laptops in those days? Yeah, nowhere to be found. What a shame. Oh dear. What a shame. Poor old Noah. Yeah. And where's the boat today? It's up a mountain. Oh, it's there. It's there. It's up the mountain. We just not looking hard enough. Yeah, it just happens to be 500 feet fucking long, or 550 to be exact, because we don't want to misquote the Bible, do we? Yeah, but we can't find it because it's too big. That's the problem. It's too big. We can't find it. Yeah. Just like fucking, where's Jesus? Where's the fucking tomb of Jesus? Oh, it's there. You're just not looking hard enough. How about we go into your fucking backyard and mine for fucking oil, and when we drill down fucking 10 kilometers and we say we haven't found any, you just turn around and say, keep drilling, it's there. Keep going. 20 kilometers, keep drilling. We know it's there. Keep drilling. We know those fucking tactics. Right? We've seen it over and over again. Yeah, keep drilling, the oil's there. Fucking hell. Keep looking for the boat. Keep looking. Just happens to be the biggest wooden boat on earth. It's there. You're just not looking in the right place. 550 fucking feet. It's there. You're just not looking on the right part of the mountain, that's all. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, we know those tactics. Yeah. It's there if you want. Close your eyes, put a nice cold towel on your forehead. Just make believe it's there, that's all. Let's play make believe. That's all. Let me tell you a story about Jack and the Beanstalk. All right, now there was a little boy called fucking Jack, right? And he bought these fucking 3 beans, right? And he put the fucking beans in the ground. Now, so far, that's all fucking legitimate. Apart from when the fucking beanstalk kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and fucking way up to the clouds, which today we've never observed any fucking trees getting anywhere near the fucking clouds. But you know what? You've got to play make-believe. That's all. Play make-believe. There's nothing like a good bedtime story. We love it. And you've got your little Bible with nice little bedtime story. That's all.
You've went quiet, Adman.
Oh, yeah, he went fucking quiet. I know he went quiet because he's having it's called cognitive dissonance, right? He doesn't like it when people
to jump to his defense, you don't give him a chance to talk, and I don't blame him.
Oh, yeah, talk nonsense.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He has a right to talk nonsense and finish the sentence at least before he gets handed over.
All right. When I'm ready to go to the fucking toilet, let me know when he wants to fucking arc up, because I've heard it fucking over and over again. It's the same nonsense though.
But the arc doesn't come. The arc story. The arc story doesn't come from the New Testament, though, right? Let's all agree on that.
Hey, I tell you, I like the way it's like, oh, but I've been on the internet a long time. Oh, so fucking what? Who cares? What, did you get a medal when you fucking joined the internet? Is that how it works? It's like, oh, look at me. I joined the internet. I want a medal. Yeah, I love the way they go off fucking topic and start talking about something what's irrelevant to fucking the conversation about. I see the first person who joined the internet, he's the one who's always right. Is that the way it works?
I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof. I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof.
What did Von Helton just say?
I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof. I would be very encouraged if the bigamy laws were to suddenly go poof.
If bigamy laws were to go poof.
Okay, well, give the intro and start it.
All right, so hello everybody, and it is the whatever day of whatever month of whatever year, I don't know.
I think it's December 4th.
Yeah. Body and...
December 5th, sorry.
December 5th. What?
December number 5, December 5th.
December the 5. What year are we again?
2016, the worst year ever.
2016?
2016. Time flies, huh?
5. What day is today? Monday?
Monday.
All right. So yeah, time flies, and we're going to talk about time today in a way that you have never heard before, and in a way that you obviously are not going to believe. But
lucky you,
yes,
listener.
Lucky you, listener. Everybody needs to get their voice heard, apparently, right? So
that's what communism's all about, Sid.
I'm trying to find the guy. Oh, there he is. Communism, you think?
Satanism.
Yeah, maybe. So, there's our guy. His name is Stephen Bachman, and he's going to answer the question, how does God exist outside time and space? Are you ready?
Sure. Well, I wanted to do this particular video because it is an interesting topic, and I've heard a lot of people say that how can God exist outside of time and space? And the answer is actually quite simple, and that the answer is just not on our plane of existence. So therefore, time doesn't have the same concept or the same impact as
that's the pause button.
If he were to be living in
pause.
Okay, listen. Right off the bat, it strikes the mind that he's coming from a very humanocentric viewpoint, like we're in a privileged position of indicating when existence begins in the universe, right? Of course, there was things that happened before man ever existed. That would, one thing objection I'd bring up. But
yeah, he's
go
going to
ahead.
make, but he's going to make an assertion. He's going to make
All right.
an unverifiable claim.
Our universe, or she, to be living in our universe. So I've done this little diagram, which I'll just show you. And, okay, so you can see...
Okay, let's talk about this diagram.
All right, let's talk about it.
The central part of this, I see a circle. That is the circle of infinity, I guess, the infinity of existence. Everything else right now, I don't know, but it looks like he's put a beginning of time point on the circle and a beginning and end of life point on the circle for some reason. The creation of the universe point. So I think he's really trying to find the beginning of a circle, which is impossible.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be his failure.
Well, what it looks like he's trying to bend reality around the God concept to be. It's sort of like, okay, God has to be in the middle. How can we test that, right? I don't know.
All right, let's see.
See how I've broken it up. And this is just a crude representation of how the timeline flows in our universe. So you got the beginning of time, which is in nanoseconds. So everything that happened in the Big Bang, it happened in about millionths of a second type thing. It's like what happened within the whole universe to particles reacting a certain way and doing a certain thing and basically doing its thing. These happen in very, very tiny seconds. So the beginning of time to the creation of the universe is a very short window, but it's all important when it comes to describing time.
Sure.
And obviously just after the creation of the universe to the beginning of life, so the universe has expanded, it's formed stars, it's now forming planets, it's now
pause right here for
building the blocks for life, and this.
Okay, apparently Stephen's making the distinction between the actual beginning of time to the point where he could claim that the creation of the universe. I think there's a gap there where he's calling nanoseconds.
Well, exactly. He's claiming that there's a beginning of time, and he's made some kind of a claim about what happens before that, which I don't get it at all.
It's happening in eons.
Let me go back a couple of... Let's see what he's claiming.
It's for life, and this happened in eons. So we're talking a very long period of time, immeasurable amount of time that we couldn't even quantify with a calculator. So I wouldn't even bother. But
okay, one second. Go ahead. Pause, Sid.
Looks like he's pointing that red arrow of eon, saying this is the infinity of existence. Basically, that's what it looks like he's going to.
Well, one thing I want to bring up to our listeners is that they're always looking for a hiding place for the God concept. The more that science finds out about the nature of our universe, the more they have to find a place to hide God. Because once we can ascertain that there is no God, they got to find a hiding place to put him. So he's trying to find a hiding place for the God concept, somewhere within the beginning of time, I guess, in the creation of the universe. Mm-hmm. Saying that since, we can't calculate this point, here's where God exists. I mean, this is, trying to find a hiding place for God.
Right. Carry on.
Yeah. There we go. We've got the beginning of life. Now, if you see God in the middle, it actually represents him or her being outside of time. So
how can you test that, Stephen?
I'm hoping.
Okay, how does he's within time, right? Over here,
right.
This is within time, so that's not outside of time. Unless he's saying outside of time is if you're not on the line or something. It doesn't make sense either.
Well, like you said, there's a point on the circle. He wants to find some point on the circle.
Yeah, that's his first failing. You can't find the beginning of time on an infinite loop of existence, because There is no beginning. And
Like God is this special creature that can also exist outside of time, but we have no simile within our experience of our universe. What else is like God that can also exist outside of time? So that's why, you know, this thing is like hard to test, hard to swallow. You know, it doesn't make rational sense.
No, not yet.
Hoping this sort of makes sense to you. And then we go from the beginning of time to the end of life, so the end of life in the universe, which again is eons. We don't know how long that's going to be, and I guess we can never really be sure.
But we can
just
infer
be
it,
thankful
for sure.
every.
We can what?
We can infer the end of time because the universe is dissipating, entropy. So yes, we can do that much, Stephen.
Yeah.
Day we can, and after that it goes back to nanoseconds, where the universe basically implodes on itself again, and that.
I've heard of this thing about the fluctuating universe, but I don't think anybody can prove it, Stephen.
That's been proved. That's not going to happen.
As far as I heard, the universe is going to heat death. It's just going to dissipate, and we don't know what's going to happen after that.
Well, no, what's going to happen is everything's moving away from everything else so quickly.
True.
That there's going to become a time where everything is so far distant away from each other that they won't be able to even be.
Yeah, heat death.
Noticeable. Yeah. But how the universe is going to, what the mechanics are of the universe contracting into that sort of, back in time thing and back to this sort of singularity, I haven't seen any myself
theory or how exactly that's going to come about.
I
or
haven't seen any scientific evidence or theory or thinking or whatever about that points to it being a what do you call it?
Possibility, plausibility.
That there's a possibility of contraction. Nothing that I've seen ever.
For every day we can, and after that it goes back to nanoseconds, where the universe basically implodes on itself again and starts the whole cycle all over again. Now, the reason why I put God in the middle of the diagram is because what it's representing is that at any point in time, God can interact with that particular time period. There isn't a governing law that says
How can you test that? See
what happens in the
what?
How can you test that? I mean, this is an assertion, man. Anytime God can do this.
That's right.
Okay, how did you prove that God can do that?
Yeah, but he's also begging the question where every time he mentions God, what's this God thing you're talking about? It's a concept. Okay, there's no, you're making a presumption that there is that God there. Now you're trying to explain how, but you haven't explained what this God is and
what's its substance?
How it got there and what its substance and blah blah blah. So good luck, buddy.
Fourth dimensional. Are we fourth or third? I thought we were the fourth. Well, as far as I know, we're the fourth because you've got if you it's all about points of reference. So you got time, which is the first dimension. The second dimension is distance. I think, and I'm not a physicist, so I can't really explain that too well. I'm sure there is a video out there.
I don't blame him.
For you
People
that,
are trying
that
to
would explain
work
what dimension
God, the reality around God,
concept.
but it's difficult because not even Einstein could even do it.
Particular time period.
Right.
There isn't a governing law that says you can, what happens in the fourth dimensional. Are we fourth or third? I think. I thought it's all about points of reference. So you got, distance. I think, and I'm not a physicist, so I can't really explain that too well. I'm sure there is a video out there for you that would explain what dimension we're in and how it's sort of figured. Anyway, but the point is that God, being outside of time and space, can interact with any point in time. There is no particular reference that he needs to...
How do you test or prove that, Stephen?
Okay, how do we show that God is outside of space at this thing? 'Cause
right.
Where is space? He's got time, the timeline, but where's space?
Okay, just to tell the listeners, this assertion that, there's a video out there that can substantiate everything I'm telling you. But listen, if that was true, then the main department at the JPL would be a theology department, right? The main department at the CERN Super Collider would be a theology. There would be some use to, the Christian God concept or whatever God concept he's using, but there is none. I mean, there's no scientific applicability with the God concept.
Right.
That he has to wait for, if you will. The concept here is that basically everything that would happen and has happened has already happened. So our lives have already happened. We've already existed, and then basically. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this. Okay, so it's a lot of information to process. So basically, everything that can happen has already happened, but at the same time, it's happening in its own time. So basically, so the beginning of life starts. It's happening now. Our time is happening now. The future is happening now. That's what I'm trying to describe to you, is that it happens, it's still happening. It's still...
Sounds to me like he's the B theory of time, sort of.
Okay.
Right?
It's still... It's like people in the past are being born, people in the future are being born, people now being born and living their lives. The reason why I'm getting to this point is because I'm going to get to time travel, all right? And also a bit of multiverse theory. Now, what that means also is that because everything has already happened, it means that potentially other universes...
Everything has already happened.
I don't understand. He said everything, you've already been born and you've already lived your life. Like it's all happened.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Everything that's possible to have happened has already happened, he says.
I don't know that.
So in other words, you've already... The
universe is already dead.
This is at least your second time around or something.
Are happening at the same time, in the same frame of reference, in the same methods. And it's why when people talk about multiverse, that's what they're talking about. That basically you make a decision. You have a choice. Well, you go one way. But in this alternate life, you go another way. And it doesn't mean that you yourself are going to go down that path. It means that someone else that is you is also going to go down a different path and have a different set of circumstances happen. So I hope that helps with that. We'll get to time travel, that basically mathematically time travel is possible. Okay, so
how?
You would probably sit there and go, well, no, it's not. You know, if time travel is possible, why aren't we seeing people traveling in time now?
Is that a question that anybody's ever tried to ask?
How can we travel in time? I mean, like we can, go fast.
Firstly, he said that everything's already happened, so the future and the past and the present, everything is now. Okay, well, let's just see. Maybe I misunderstand something.
Well, they might be, but we don't know about it. And some of the interesting things to consider with the time travel is the Doppler effect on time itself, because obviously, with the expansion of the universe, the Earth and the Sun and planets, we're all moving. we're all at a different point of reference every single day. So if we were to build a machine that could actually warp reality around it or warp time, which I don't know how that would even be possible, but if such a machine could even exist, it would need to be able to calculate the exact point of reference each time, each day of the Earth. So if you wanted to go back in time, you'd have to know exactly where the Earth was in that period of existence. And that's where I think you don't want your time machine to be dropping you in the middle of space or dropping you in the center of a mountain or something like that. You need to know the exact point of reference where you're going to land, if you will. Because I guess a time machine doesn't really move. It warps the world around it and basically lands at a point of reference in time where the computer tells it to. So, yeah, I hope that really sort of gives you an idea when they talk about, God being outside of time, and also just for fun, looking at time machines. So when people talk about traveling through time, it gives you an idea of what it means to actually travel through time and where you would land and what would happen. So I just think these are interesting topics. I mean, it's one of those things, like it's interesting to talk about, I guess.
Okay.
So maybe.
Okay, we'll keep going. We're almost done. I'll go ahead and epilogue once he finishes.
Universe, there is another version of you that is king of the world. I mean, when we're talking about multiverse theory, these are all possibilities, and even though they're happening outside our time and space, doesn't mean that they're not happening. And that's something interesting to consider. So I don't know what that says about the world, but there you go. But anyway, so peace out, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.
Well, that was kind of enlightening.
Okay, you want to go first, and then I'll epilogue.
No, you take it away, man.
Okay, well, 2 tracks here. We had God and we had time travel, okay?
Right.
The thing is, there is a practical use you could see to try time travel, right? One wants to time travel in order to gain an advantage of a situation or to remedy a situation, right? You want to go back in time and kill Hitler, or you want to go forward in time and learn who won the Super Bowl so you could go back and, bet on the winner, right?
Right.
There's some practical application to time travel, all right?
Right.
Now, the God concept, sure, you want to pray to God to gain, the same thing in a way. You want to pray to God to gain an advantage. You want to, be buddies with the creator of the universe in some form, please God, right? Yeah. The thing is that the God concept is like an older concept than time travel, because I would say relatively, the physics of time travel have come, in the 19th century. Let's say, what's his name? Who's the guy who made all the fantasy? Arthur Conan Doyle. You know what I mean? Jules Verne.
Yeah.
Those type of guys. The thing is that right now they use science. Obviously, we're watching here is a place to hide God, or to say that there's some substance to the God concept.
But there was something missing from his, from his diagram.
Okay.
He put, like I say, he put God, and he showed how God is outside of time, but he also placed God outside of space. But on the diagram, he didn't show how God was outside of space.
Right.
So.
Well, I think what Stephen wanted to say is that there's some point in the circle where, we can't imagine, but God can be there, right?
Okay, but then he also goes on to talk about multiverses, and when you come to multiverses, if every universe is a circle, then does every universe have its own God?
Right. It's a good point. I mean, the mechanics of God are wondrous. It's fantastical. You could do anything with it because it's just concept.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this, Sid. Okay, what use is the scientist that just sort of sits around and thinks up shit to stump science? You know what I mean? There's no use to that scientist unless he figures out some sort of practicality towards his theories, in this hypothesis. The scientist thinks all day of how to work God into our reality, but unless he comes up with some way of testing it, proving it, there's no use to that.
Well, it's tough to predict what will be useful and what won't be useful.
So you think that's worth it? A guy just sitting around thinking where God can exist?
Well, no, it's not worth that, because first you have to first think how God can exist, and if so, where, because you don't see him.
Right. The reason that there is this God is to gain some sort of advantage, some sort of interaction with God.
Right. So I don't...
Okay, did you think Stephen befuddled himself there? I think he did. Halfway when the video was done, he was like trying to explain this stuff, and then he said, "I'm not a physicist." And I was like, well, Stephen, even the greatest physicist of all time couldn't figure out how to work God in.
Physicist, God, in the same sense?
Like Einstein. Let's say Einstein put it upon himself, okay, I'm going to figure out where God lives. The guy, even him, didn't have time for the God concept. He thought he had more time for things that actually existed than wasting time on the God concept.
Right, because the God concept, again, it's just a concept that doesn't change over time if you don't talk about it. If nobody talks about God for the next 1,000 years,
right,
and in 1,000 years starts talking about God again, it'll be the same. It'll be the same shit, same attributes, same the same woo woo. So all you God believers, I want you to put down your egos and your faith and your beliefs, and embrace reality. Once you do, I promise you will love it. Trust me.
Trust it.
Trust me, you'll love reality. Well, do you have any other videos you want to review?
Well, I only got cooking videos and tranny videos. That's the only one that really had some atheistic substance to it.
Well, neither of those two subjects are ones that I care to spend much time talking about, because...
Right, trannies, food, or weightlifting.
Yeah, unless we've got a chef or an actual, tranny activist or whatever.
Right.
To actually talk to, then...
But yeah, well, we'd like to thank Stephen for his video. Thank you for your time, Stephen. Keep cranking out them videos.
Yes,
we'll review them.
Come on, we want more. We want more. More stuff to review, more stuff to look at, more stuff to...
Clarifications, corrections, whatever.
I mean, not laugh. All right, so that was the review of Stephen Buck, one of Stephen Buckman's videos. Please share, like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel, and donate to my PayPal.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? What the hell? Thank you very much for watching. This is Sydney Winston.
Have a good one.
On December I didn't put the date up. It's 5th of December, 2016.